So the meeting is called to order. And Madam Secretary, would you call the roll, please?
I will. Rachel Anger is here. Cindy Bird.
Here.
Kathy Calhoun.
Here.
Thanks. Worried me there for a minute. John Kalila.
Here.
Kenny Curley.
Here.
Pam Delabar.
Here.
Kathy Dunham.
Here.
George Eigenhauser.
Here.
Yukiko Hayata.
Here.
Carol Krasnowski.
Here.
Rich Maston.
Here.
Steve McCullough.
Here.
Melanie Morgan.
Here.
Brian Moser.
Here.
Pam Moser.
Here.
Howard Webster. Daryl Newkirk.
Here.
Howard, are you on the call? Okay, let's go to Eileen Tartaglia.
Here.
James Simbro. Is James on the call? Okay.
Yep, there we go. You would not unmute. I'm here.
Shelley Borowski.
Here.
Shelley Perkins. Shelley B, but no Shelley P. Gavin Cow.
There she is.
There's Shelley.
Gavin on the call?
Shelley
Yeah,
Perkins
he's
is
on.
here now.
Gavin is. Okay, Eva Chen.
Here.
Matthew Wong.
Here.
And I understand Shelley Perkins is on the call? Oh, and how about Howard Webster? So we're missing Howard and Shelley, but I believe we have a quorum. So
Thank
turn it
you.
back to you, Mr. President.
Okay, Eileen, can you start broadcasting, please? Or if you have not already?
We are broadcasting and Shelley Perkins is here, I believe.
I'm
present.
Here
I'm
she
present.
is.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, our first
No,
order. Go ahead. Who was speaking?
Rachel, I was just noting that I noted that Shelley is here.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. Okay, let's go on to approval of the orders of the day. I know there's a few changes. So let's, I know that Rich Maston had some changes. Rich, you want to start out?
Yes, Daryl, thank you. Motion to move two budget items in executive session. One is the foundation's budget request, and the other is Kenny Curley's international division budget request, specifically the detailed information on China. And we do have a motion during Kathy Calhoun's budget request to approve the budget. We're going to have to delay that motion to approve pending the discussions on the executive session items.
Okay. All right,
It's Rachel.
Yep.
Can we not pull out the line items in question and approve the rest of the budget?
Daryl?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
We cannot, can I answer that question?
Yes, you may. Go ahead.
We cannot do that because we do not have a budget, a bottom line until we resolve the other issues. So we would be voting on an open budget. We
Thank
can't
Okay.
do that.
All right, thank you. All right, Pam, George Eigenhauser is next, and then you.
Okay. The first, am I muted now? The first action item in report number 18, the COVID committee, has to do with resuming judges training. That's also being handled in a closed session item, I believe item 24 under the judging program.
Okay.
It makes no sense to talk about them twice. And if they have issues they want to raise in closed session, I would like to move that item to closed session to be discussed concurrently with theirs.
Okay, that's good. All right, and Pam Delabar.
Under survey results, it states discussion and action item at board discretion. They did not state a motion, yet it leaves it wide open for a motion to be made and moved upon. I would transfer that to request that be transferred to new business.
Okay.
If we don't have a motion stated, then it has to go to new business.
Okay, that'll be fine. We'll move that down to new business.
And then the other one is item number 4 under the millennial outreach. It asks for us to donate an unspecified amount. Without the amount being specified, we have to discuss it. And that always takes place in executive session.
Okay. Rachel,
I also have a little motion for new business.
okay. Go ahead. Go ahead, Rachel.
I'll wait until new business to do my motion.
Okay. All right, it's an open session.
Yes.
And can you just give us what it's, a rough, what it's about?
It is one of our clubs in China that wants to extend their closing date, as we've been doing for other clubs.
Okay,
And also their judges might need some help. Their
okay,
associate judges.
okay. Pam, your hand's still up, Delabar?
Sorry. I apologize.
Okay. Anyone else have any changes to our orders of business? Okay, is there any objection to the approval of, see, Rich, your hand's up.
Daryl, thank you. So I do have a question for the ID committee on their report. Is there anything in their report that is scheduled to be reviewed in open session that needs to go in closed session?
There probably are. And I would instruct the committee members, anything related to the budget, we're going to have to not speak about it in the open session,
Okay,
especially in great detail as to what our plans are. So I would just caution them when they give their very quick and concise reports on happenings in China in open session.
okay,
Yeah, Kenny, I was referring to the non-budgeted items, but some of the other items that are listed in the committee's report, I don't know if they're all, they all should be in open session. That's what I'm referencing. So when we get to that point, we need to be extremely careful what's communicated.
Okay, basically, they wanted, what these committee members would like to do is just to give you a brief summation of accomplishments in China and a general overview. I would ask them, if they're all listening, not to get into any specifics of any plans that we may be planning in the future. We'll keep those specifically to closed session.
Thank you.
okay. Thank you, Kenny. All right. So we have we're moved to close. We are amended orders of the day. Is there any objection to the amended orders of the day? Okay, I see no hands up. So if there's no objection by unanimous consent, we've adopted our orders of the day. Okay, Madam Secretary, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. And this is for ratification of the online motions. And while, there we go. There's a couple of motions that do not require ratification. And as we scroll down, we'll see quite a number of motions that were passed by the executive committee that we will need to ratify. So I ask that we ratify motions you see on the screen, number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, I believe.
Okay,
That is
Rachel.
my motion.
Okay, I
Carol
need a
seconds.
second.
Delbar,
Okay, who, please identify yourself again. Who seconded?
Carol seconded.
Okay, Carol, thank you. All right, is there any discussion on any of these executive committee motions that need to be ratified? Okay, I see no hands up. Is there any objection to the ratification of these online executive committee motions? Hearing no objection by unanimous consent, they are ratified.
My next action item is to approve the March 2nd, 2021 minutes as published.
George
Okay,
seconds.
thank you, George. So we have a motion and a second to approve the March 2nd, 2021 minutes as published. Any discussion? Nope, okay. Any objections to the approval of the March 2nd, 2021 minutes? Hearing no objections by unanimous consent, those minutes are approved.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you
More
very
coming.
much. Okay, so let's move on to the judging program. And Vicky, you're up first.
Hi, thank you very much, and thanks for the board for this time to speak with you. First of all, I just would like to talk briefly about the new COVID requirements. The committee that has approved these, and I have communicated with the judging panel 4 times now. The first 2 were just about masking up and accepting assignments and understanding that they could cancel if they didn't feel comfortable. The last 2 were the March 16th and the March 22nd COVID mandatory and recommended requirements. Those have all been communicated to the judging panel through the CFA judges list. The second item that I have here regarding Albury judges is in regard to the judges' paperwork, our standard 2-part color class pages and the 3-part breed and final sheets. I just would like the board to approve or direct the clubs to not change this paperwork without the board approval. Many judges are just getting back to judging now, and I don't think it's a good idea at this time to change the judging paperwork without the board directing or approving it. And I have heard lots from either judges that were there or judges that are planning to judge shows and heard about this, and also the judging program committee who unanimously felt that changing the 2-part color class sheets definitely is an issue at this point. So the board action I have is the board will direct all show producing clubs to make sure judges are provided with the 2-part NCR color class pages and the 3-part NCR breed and finals forms. Judges show paperwork is not to be changed without the CFA board approval. Rachel?
I will make a
Thank you.
standing motion for all the judging program action items.
Okay,
Carol,
thank
Yeah,
you.
Labar will make a second.
Okay, I heard Carol Krasnowski first, so she'll be the second. All right, any discussion? No discussion? Okay, is there any objection to the action item? Hearing no objection by unanimous consent, the action item is agreed to. Thank you, Vicky.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
And then the next set is just the listing of guest judging that I have approved either for CFA judges to guest judge for other groups or associations, and also for non-CFA judges to judge for CFA shows.
Okay, thank you. And you have a little segment in closed session, is that correct?
I do, thank you.
Okay, Ann Mathis, you're recognized for the CFA Associate Judging Program.
Okay. Currently, we're reviewing the applications that have been received for the second phase, and we are amazed at how many well-qualified applicants we're going to have. It's upwards of 20. We received almost 40 applications. So we're working on that, and we'll give the board a list of people to approve at the next meeting. We've discovered that the Chinese associates are incredibly overworked, and I noticed that there had to be a number of exceptions made so that they can judge more than one show a weekend, or that a licensed judge is not able to be present, and you've granted some exceptions for someone to be remotely available if needed. So my 2 action items, the first one is to ask permission to accept more Chinese associates. We were going to ask this for this current or the upcoming T2 program, but I'm willing for that to move to T3 if we want, unless we feel that we really need to get them in the ring sooner. So effective immediately, approve 4 more China associate judge slots, 2 long hair, 2 short hair. Applicants will be considered in accordance with the current guidelines that were passed at the February meeting. These would need to be English speaking applicants because the phases they're going to be involved with would involve a lot of non-Chinese speakers. Do you want me to do these one at a time, Daryl, or read them both?
No, let's do them one at a time. So Rachel has a standing motion. I need a second.
Carol made a standing second, if that's
Oh,
acceptable.
okay. All right. Thank you, Carol. I didn't get the standing part. So, all right. So we have a motion here that is in the next group, the T2 group, that we accept 4 from China, 2 longs and 2 shorts. Is that correct, Dan?
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right. This Kenny Curley.
Yeah, they really do need more judges. I'm speaking in favor of this motion.
Okay.
And I hope it goes through.
Okay. Anyone else? Kenny, you want to take your hand down, buddy? All right. So I don't see anyone else's hands up. Is there any objection to accepting 4 Chinese, 2 long hair and 2 short hair in the T2 group, as long as they speak English? Okay, I hear no objections. By unanimous consent, there will be 4 Chinese associates to attend T2 training sessions. Okay, Ann, you can go ahead with your next one.
Okay, we had that that is necessary to have a licensed judge present at a show to act as an advisor in case of issues or questions. The lead judge is available for questions and advice. In this, the change would be either in person at the show or available remotely. If in person, the lead judge can conduct a group session. That's the only change, is that they could be available remotely, because I know this has been an issue in China a number of times.
Okay. Melanie Morgan.
Thank you, Daryl. I actually think that it makes sense to have a judge available remotely for those associate judges who've been judging on a frequent basis. But I'm uncomfortable with the way this is written because I don't think it's a good idea at all for newer judges, so the T2 people coming out, to not have someone on site and not have that group session prior. So as written, I can't support this.
Okay.
Daryl, can I say something?
Sure.
In the proposal we passed in February, we did grant an exception to having a licensed judge there if governmental restrictions prohibited it. So we already have that to a certain extent in the existing proposal. This one is obviously more because of availability of a judge.
Okay.
Even though there are.
Daryl?
Yes.
And I voted against it then.
Okay. All right. Vicki, does this have something to do with your committee?
No, it was actually about Ann's previous request. I understood Ann to say that she was going to accept or have the China associates train with T3, but when the motion went through, it was for T2. I just want to make sure which way it's going to be.
T2.
Because the way it was, okay. Thanks.
That was an alternative.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else want to discuss the second action item here? Okay, let's call for the vote. All those in favor of Ann's second action item, and that's to allow for a remote Albury judge to consult. Okay, those voting yes are George Eigenhauser, Kenny Curley, Rachel Anger, Kathy Calhoun, Carol Krasnowski, Pam Delabar, Rich Maston, Kathy Calhoun, Cindy Bird, Steve McCullough, and I can't see anybody else.
Daryl?
Sharon Roy,
Yep, thank you.
John Kalila, Brian Mosier. Okay, if you'll take your hands down. Those voting no, please raise your hand. So we got Pam Mosier, Melanie. Did we lose Melanie?
I'm here.
You voted no.
Oh, okay, it's just now come up on my screen. Okay, so the no votes are Pam Mosier and Melanie Morgan. Are there any abstentions? Okay, Rachel, you can announce the vote when you have it tabulated.
We did not get a vote from Yukiko Hayata.
Yeah, I said yes, but
Okay,
you know, okay.
okay.
And we still do not have Howard on the call. Is that correct? So we have 14 yes votes, 2 no votes, 0 abstentions.
Okay, so the motion is agreed to. All right, Ann, you have anything else on open session?
No, my only other question would be, can we request applications from the Chinese at that time, or does that need to be a separate board item for the board to give me permission to ask for those?
No, I think you made it clear they have to speak English, so I would go ahead and solicit the applications.
All right, thank you very much.
And pick your 4 people and present them in May when you bring up the other T2 associates.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Ann. I appreciate it. Kathy Calhoun, your hand is up.
Yes, I just wondered, did anybody have Howard's phone number to try and reach out to him? I was looking, I don't.
Rachel does. I'll take care of it.
Thank you, Rachel. Appreciate it. Okay. So let me see what's next on the agenda. So Ellen, I know yours is in closed session. Barb Yeager, are you here?
I don't have any action items. This
Okay.
is a report. I just wanted to know if anybody had any questions. We're set to go for our class this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday on Belgium time.
Okay.
We have 34 people registered. And that, as you can see, from I think 14 different countries.
Okay.
And the only other thing is, as of I believe it was the February board meeting, there was a discussion about when they made the changes to maybe it was January. Anyway, the board made changes to the pricing fee schedule.
Yep.
And I've been working with Aileen to get those funds that were due to go back to the people that were involved in the October class back. And as of last week, she had completed 14 refunds and was
Okay.
still working on the remainder of them. And it's a total of $1,500 to be reimbursed.
Okay. Thank you, Barb, for that update. Anybody have questions for Barb on the BAOS report? No. Anything else on the judging program committee? Okay, hearing nothing, we will move on to order number 4, IT committee. James Sembro, you're recognized.
Thanks, Daryl. Good evening, everyone. Don't have anything to add to the report. If there's any questions on what's been going on or any info you want on what's coming up, I'd be happy to take those now. A lot of virtual annual stuff has been taking a lot of time with Aline, but other than that, you'll see what's on there.
Okay, thank you, James. Rich, you're recognized.
Thank you. Yeah, James, I have maybe 3 questions here.
Sure.
The first one is on the ECAT website. You have will be due for a refresh in 2022. Will that be completed by the end of CFA's fiscal year in 2021-22 as in April 30th, 2022, or after CFA's fiscal year?
Probably after.
Okay. Next question is, do you have an estimated cost of the refresh?
No, that's just something we kind of realized in probably the last 6 to 8 months that it was, I'm trying to think when we haven't done a total refresh. Computan, the last major thing that was done was Computan did made it a little more mobile friendly before, before Sonnet took over. So yeah, it's really kind of due, and some of the features we want to add really kind of depend on making it more user friendly, which depends on that, the back end to be refreshed.
Okay, so the cost won't hit, not this new coming year, it'll be the following year since it
Right,
won't be complete.
Yeah,
Okay,
we'll have to lay out what all we want to do, and then submit those to Sonnet, get a quote and budget for it.
okay, and my last question is there any chance the site will be down for any period of time?
No, should not be.
Okay.
No.
Great, thank you.
Okay, Kathy Calhoun, you're recognized. Looks like Kathy stepped away from her computer. Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions for James on the modules and everything that he presented in his report? Okay, Kathy, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the report. I really love the format of the chart, and I really appreciate the work behind that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Rich, you're recognized. You're muted.
I'm sorry, I turned the page to look at James's workflow chart and I have two more questions, it looks like.
Okay.
On the WeChat app, it was estimated completion date March 1, 2021, and then started March 2021. Did that get completed?
Our part is completed. So everything CFA was responsible for is getting the web services up and running is done. So it's the app development now. So,
Okay.
Maybe we should have Gavin comment.
Yeah, Gavin, give it an update.
This is Gavin here. So we finished most of the testing, and just last week, I think we were discussing with the developers here. We need to maybe add one more web service. This is basically to inform the WeChat app which entry has been entered into the central system. So I think the developer is drafting business specification to the vendors, the CFA vendors right now. And I think that's the only missing piece right now, and everything else has been completed.
Okay, Rich?
Yeah, my last question are on the 2-star bullets. People record consolidation and clerk status records.
Right.
What do you have for an estimated cost on those items?
That we do not have yet.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great,
that's
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Anything else, James?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, we'll move on to order number 5, central office report. Aline, you're recognized.
Okay. I have one board action item, but mostly there's some information there about the certified pedigrees, the PDFs. We are working on that, where the default will be that somebody gets mailed or emailed a PDF certified pedigree. And it won't be just text, it'll look like a certified pedigree. It'll have an electronic seal on it. So we think that people will really prefer having that. It'll just be easier to handle. However, if somebody does still want a printed pedigree, there will be an additional fee, or there will be a fee for that, yet to be determined. And when we do print those pedigrees, it will be on a nicer paper stock than we already have. So even though there will be a fee, they'll be getting something a little bit nicer.
Okay.
The co-ownership. Currently, we will register a cat with up to 7 co-owners. I was quite surprised that we had moved in that direction. That it just seems like a lot. And there's the biggest concern with that is beyond the space it takes on certificates, and it's a little bit unwieldy. It's a concern that these multiple owners encourages in name only litters, which can be used to qualify someone for pre-council membership, fulfill requirements under the judging program, and that sort of thing. So I'm requesting the board to consider and endorse a policy to limit co-owners to 3 going forward.
Okay, I need somebody to make a motion to that effect.
Who makes the motion?
And
Okay.
Carol will second.
Okay, Kenny and Carol. All right, thank you. Pam Delbar, you're recognized.
I do have a concern about the first on the pedigrees. Many of our other associations do not allow, should we say, electronic type of pedigrees. I don't have a formal feedback yet from FIFA. I do know that one of the federations has inquired of FIFA to see if they will accept a certified electronic pedigree. But as of right now, there is a concern that they might not be accepted.
Okay,
Just wanted
thank you.
to on that.
Yep, thank you, Pam. Kathy Calhoun, you're recognized.
Yes, my comment was on the motion. I wondered if we could consider increasing the motion to 4 co-owners, and the rationale behind that is quite often people operate in pairs, either in couples or the significant other or the child or whatever. So there's quite a few people that operate in pairs. So if you have 2 couples working together, you would limit this to the name of one of those people. So I think if possibly we could increase that to 4, that would be very, very workable in my opinion.
Are you making an amendment?
I am.
And
Okay,
George is seconding.
Thank you, George. So Kathy has made an amendment to increase from 3 to 4 co-owners. George has seconded it. And George, you're recognized.
Kathy said everything I was going to say.
Okay, good deal. Rachel Anger, you're recognized.
Thank you. I'm not in support of the motion at all, so I don't want to make an amendment. I'll be voting no for it.
Okay.
I think with our computer capabilities, if someone has 5 people or 6 people that are involved in a registration of the breeding of a litter, all those people should get credit. Who are you gonna chop out? So I understand why the request is being made, but if I was person number 5 or number 6 that had a legitimate involvement in that litter, I'm just gonna be out, and I can't support that either. And I think our computer was set up so that it can accommodate me as breeder number 5.
Okay, Shelley.
My concern is the way it's written. It doesn't say that it's for future registrations. And so I don't know what the liability is. If you're making a motion like this, I don't want it. You have all of these current registrations out there. I don't want the CFA to have to go change everything or, change all these registrations that do exist. So if you're going to do something, I think there needs to be some kind of future application.
Okay, and what's your recommendation?
Well, my recommendation would be that if this motion is going to proceed forward, that it should say the motion to permit up to 4 co-owners on individual registrations or litters applied for beginning, and then you set a date so that it's a future application as opposed to, because this looks like you're only going to allow this, which what does that do to your current registrations and litters that you already have more than 3 or 4, whatever you decide.
Okay,
Yep.
so Aline,
Absolutely.
would you prefer to withdraw this and clean it up and bring it back in May?
I can do that. I mean, we could make it effective June 1st, but sure, I can bring it back in May.
Daryl, wouldn't it be easier, vote on the amendment and then amend it a second time to give it a start date and just do it right now?
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Pam Delabar, you're recognized.
Thank you. In my historical mind, we have already done something to this effect in recognizing how many people on a litter registration would be eligible for breed council membership and for judging. That's somewhere in our history that we already have this.
Okay, thank you for that.
Aline, I think, wants to make it overall, but I know that we have or did have specific rules for breed councils and for judging programs based upon the, litters bred, litters registered, that kind of action.
Okay, Shelley? Okay, all right. Any other debate on the amendment, increasing it up to 4 co-owners? Carol Krasnowski?
Yes, I'm in favor of doing the 4. I think Kathy Calhoun's rationale was very valid as to increasing it to 4 from 3. However, I think going beyond 4 is way too many. And I have to think we did have something in place at one time that limited the ownership. And when that changed is rather unclear. I mean, I contacted Aline about it and we spoke, and there weren't any definite board actions that made that change. So
okay,
it's a bit unclear. And I think we should limit it.
all right. Well, this would clean it up if we pass this motion. So, okay, any other comments on the amendment, increasing from 3 to 4 co-owners? Okay, let's call for the vote. All those in favor of the amendment? Okay, so the yes votes are Brian Mosier, Melanie Morgan, George Eigenhauser, Kenny Curley, Cindy Bird, Kathy Calhoun, Kathy Dunham, Pam Mosier, Rich Maston, Carol Krasnowski, Sharon Roy, Pam Delabar, John Kalila. If you'll take your hands down.
Yukiko Hayata had her hand up for a moment. I'm not sure if she's a yes.
Okay, Hayata-san? You're muted, Hayata.
Yes.
Okay, so Hayata is a yes. Okay, all those voting no? Yukiko, you can take your hand down now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
all
I
right.
did.
Okay, good. Okay, so the no votes are Rachel Anger and Steve McCullough. Take your hands down, please. Any abstentions? See no abstentions. So Rachel, you can announce a vote when you have it tabulated.
Thank you. Howard is now on the call, but I didn't see a vote from him.
Okay, Howard, how do you want to vote on this?
I don't know if he can hear you.
Howard? You need to unmute if you're trying to talk, Howard. I don't, oh, there he is. Okay, there you. Howard, how you want to vote?
Maybe you need him to do a thumbs up or thumbs down.
Howard, the
think he's there.
voting, go under
Oh, there he
reactions,
goes.
Howard. Okay,
He-
there you go.
thumbs
up. Okay, so that's a yes. Okay, Rachel.
Okay, so we have 15 yes votes, 2 no votes, 0 abstentions.
Okay, so the motion, the amendment is agreed to. Okay, all right. So now we go back to our amended original motion. And that is to permit up to 4 co-owners on an individual registration or litter. So George, you want to make an amendment to that?
Yes, let's make it effective on or after May 1.
Okay. Okay, so the amendment is to make this motion effective on or after May 1, 2021.
Registrations first made on or after.
Okay. All right. Anybody want to comment on that? Kathy Calhoun?
Oh, no, I don't have a comment.
Okay.
I thought we were getting ready to vote.
Oh, no, well, okay.
Rich will second George's amended motion.
Okay, thank you very much, Rich, for the second. All right, so let's vote. All those in favor of the amendment, raise your hands. So the yes votes are Melanie Morgan, Kathy Calhoun, Pam Mosier, Rich Maston, George Eigenhauser, Kenny Curley, Brian Mosier, Sharon Roy, Kathy Calhoun, John Kalila, Carol Krasnowski, Pam Delabar, Cindy Bird, Hayata San, Howard.
He was a yes.
Oh, well, I don't have there. Okay, his thumbs up. Okay. All right. Everybody take your hands or thumbs down. Those opposed to the amendment, please raise your hands. Okay, Rachel Anger and Steve McCullough. Howard, take your thumb down, please. All right. Any abstentions? All right, Rachel, you can announce the vote.
Kathy Dunham, how did you vote?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank
she was
you.
a yes.
So we have 15 yes votes, 2 no votes, 0 abstentions.
Okay, the amendment is agreed to. Kathy Calhoun.
I feel honored and privileged that you're calling my name twice and I'm getting 2 votes. Are you seeing me twice in your list? Because this
No.
is the second time you've called me twice.
Oh, did I? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Maybe I
okay.
made a mistake, and I know I overlooked you a couple of times online, so I'm trying to make up for it, Kathy.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks for pointing it out to me. Pam
Well, I
Mosier.
thought I might be a coaster. I thought I might have done something and got
Yeah,
myself.
no, I just probably made a mistake. Pam Mosier, you're recognized.
Okay, if Alleen's through with this part, I do have a question for her concerning central office, if I may ask and make a comment.
Yeah,
No,
we're voting on this amendment, Pam. As soon as this
Oh,
vote
are we
takes-
still voting? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep, we
I
have we have an amendment here. So
Okay, I'm sorry.
okay, all right.
I think we voted on the amendment. Now we need to vote on the main motion.
Yes, that's correct. Okay, so the main motion is up to 4 co-owners on individual registration or litter, starting May 1, 2021. Is that correct, George?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any Kathy, your hands up again?
I'm anxious. I've had too much coffee. I'm anxious.
Okay. All right. All those in favor of the amended main motion. All right. So we got Melanie Morgan, George Eigenhauser, Brian Mosier, Pam Delabar, Pam Mosier, Carol Krasnowski, Kathy Calhoun, 1 time, Sharon Roy, Kathy Dunham, 1 time, Hayata San, Cindy Bird, Rich Maston, John Kalila, Kenny Curley, and Howard. Is the thumbs up? He's a yes. Okay, if you all will take your hands down. Those opposed, please raise your hands. Steve McCullough, Rachel Anger, Kathy Calhoun. Okay. All right. Okay, you can take your hands down. Any abstentions? No abstentions. Rachel, you can announce a vote.
We have 15 yes votes, 2 no votes, 0 abstentions.
Okay, thank you very much. So the motion is agreed to. Sorry about that. Okay, Pam Mosier, you're recognized.
Okay, I'd like to ask Alleen concerning the update of February 1st, 2021 on central office staff working from home. You said tentatively reopening April 1st. Has that happened?
Yes, it has. Everybody returned to the office yesterday.
And so is there somebody in there now answering phones?
Correct. And we
Okay.
did have somebody answering offsite as well, but everybody is in the office now, so we're fully staffed to answer phones.
Thank you. That's all I wanted to know.
Okay, thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
That's a good question. All right, Rich Maston, you're recognized.
Yeah, Daryl, when we're done with central office, can we go back to IT real quick? Because James has an update on one of the questions that I posed to him.
Okay, anybody else have anything for central office? All right, Rich, you're recognized and James can answer your question.
Okay.
Yes, my question was specific to the cost on the two items that I pointed out, the record consolidation and the clerk status records. James does have an update on that.
Okay, yeah, we did put it in the budget. Those two are separate, but they're going to be done at the same time because they're very closely related. And we did put in the budget for 45,000 for that.
Okay. All right, Rich, anything else?
No, thank you, James. I just wanted that included in the record. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, no, not a problem. I didn't know if we wanted to include that since that was a budget item and that hasn't been fully fleshed out, but yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to order number 6, which is marketing. Desiree, Bobby, you're recognized.
Ready. So what I put in the report this month was a summary of some of the initiatives we're working on, focusing on the Building the Bridge marketing initiatives, which include the Trap King TNR VCC event, which was a great success. Most of you probably already know about this, but in your report, there is just a summary of the successes, the outcomes of it. Through this event, we did sign up 250 more Companion Cat World memberships, as well as everything else that's listed there. The picture is of the grand prize winners, which was on Times Square. So that was the grand prize. And of course, we had a number of sponsors noted in the report as well that donated prizes and funds and all kinds of good stuff. So that was one of our Building the Bridge market initiatives. The other one is the National Kitten Coalition workshops we provide every month. We're moving to every other month starting in the new 2021 to 2022 season. So those have been wonderful. We have had over 4,000 individuals register for the events, and you know, the majority of those also are rescuers, you know, and just cat lovers, not necessarily breeders. I mean, of course, there's been a lot of CFA breeders as well, but you know, our goal with these Building the Bridge initiatives is to bring other cat lovers into our world. So, and again, Meowie Hour is another one that we've been working on. Of course, Arden, Kathy Black, and Teresa take care of that. And they're doing a wonderful job partnering with, again, other cat-centric people outside of, you know, our world, just so we can, you know, build that bridge and widen enlarge our family. In addition to those Building the Bridge initiatives, of course, we have initiatives that are designed to build revenue for CFA and to support our family breeders. So the Find the Breeder website, I'm sure many of you will be happy to see that finally this is going live. So we're testing it as we speak. Kathy Durdick is pulling all the old ads over from this historic CFA breeder referral service into the new website. That should be done probably this week. Once they all look beautiful, we will be reaching out via email to all of the advertisers to explain to them how they can update. And then once all that is buttoned up, we will start advertising for new people just to advertise their catteries. So, and you know, social media, we're growing still. And the rest, yeah, the rest you can kind of read. And if you have any questions about anything, whether, you know, you have questions about some of these things I listed here or about anything else in the marketing world, feel free to ask.
Anybody have a question? All right. Did you mention that you appointed Gavin to work for marketing in China?
Yeah, you know, that was right at the top, and we sped by that, but
okay.
So we are going to collaborate. You know, right now the marketing team is really just me, and of course, like if you look at the report, I mean, I work with different people from different areas, and I pull them in for initiatives and we work together. So I'm hoping with Gavin, we'll do the same thing for China, But then, in addition to the strategies that he has planned for China, we're going to look over my program, of all the different projects we have on the horizon and see where we can collaborate together as well.
Okay, good deal. Gavin, did you want to add any comments?
He's
Okay.
on mute in case he was
Is
saying
he?
anything.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Yes, sorry. I said it's an honor to join the marketing team, and I look forward to working with Bobby on promoting promoting CFA in China.
Good deal. Okay.
Yes.
So let's, go ahead. Okay, let's move on then to yearbook and publications. Melanie Morgan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Daryl. There are no action items in this report. We just wanted to make sure that the board was up to date on what we're doing. I'd also like to point out that we've added 2 committee members to help us with our Facebook initiatives, Domenico Granata, forgive me if I got the pronunciation wrong there, and Caroline Melia. I'll open it up to questions. If there are none, we can move on.
I have my hand up, Daryl.
Go ahead, Pam.
Melanie, under regional dual, that's going to be a region 1 through 7 event. For us to have any chance, we need much lower shipping costs. For me to buy the 2020 yearbook was $45 for the yearbook and $44.95 for shipping. So basically it's double price. Because of the shipping, people are not getting the yearbook overseas as much as we would like them to.
Eileen, do you want to talk to that at all?
Yeah, we're not even recovering our cost on shipping. When it to ship to Japan, for instance, the current yearbook, it's about $55, and it goes even higher for somewhere like China. When we're into Spain and Italy, it's probably around $50. So we don't even break even on the shipping. And we've looked at a variety of ways to ship, and there just is no inexpensive way to ship a 4-pound book. We've talked with the various printers. We don't have the option of printing overseas. We just don't have that kind of quantity to do that. The overseas, the normal size is a little bit bigger than what we print. It's an A4 size instead of the 8.5, 11. So I don't have a solution. It's a dilemma. With the new yearbook, it will be about half the page count, about 200 pages. That'll reduce the cost of the yearbook. It'll also reduce shipping, so it might be a little bit more affordable. And the other option we can look at is digital. However, people have been very hesitant to embrace a digital format for the yearbook in the past, but that's something we can look at again.
Okay, Pam, your hand's up.
I was just bringing that up. I know what the shipping would be, but as for a regional competition or a regional divisional competition, I don't think that it's going to be applicable anywhere outside of regions 1 through 7. The other thing I was going to bring up is we also have to consider excuse me, I'm trying to get a cat not to be joining us. Is we need to consider the fact that there's duty, value-added tax that oftentimes, unless we can talk to customs very quickly, I've been asked by customs, what is this? And I say, it's a book of pictures of cats, and they've let me go. But anything over 22, the consideration of $22 US, countries are looking to add that extra value-added tax to the yearbook.
Okay.
And if I'm honest, then I've got to say, well, you know, and they want to know the shipping cost. So it basically I'm saying, well, it's $90 US. And then I get
Okay.
added 23% of that to the cost.
Okay, anyone else comments? Okay, I don't see anyone's hands up. So the survey results got moved down to new business. We're next is awards committee, and that's Cindy Bird.
So a special thank you to Rachel for pointing out to me that I needed to do a report for this. Last month, Daryl suggested that we needed to continue the regional awards into the next show season. And so this report is basically asking to approve the continuation of regional awards for the 2021-2022 show season.
George seconds.
Okay, Cindy and George. So there may be some alterations to that based on the survey, but that'd be under new business. So let's go ahead and handle this one. Let me see if I can find, I'm trying to slide up here to get to your report. Okay, all right, so anybody have any comments on this? No? Okay, all right, so the motion is to approve the continuation of regional awards for the 2021-2022 show season with potential change to the point minimums to be considered at a later time. All right, anyone have comments on this motion? All right, seeing no hands up, is there any objection to the motion? Okay, hearing no objection by unanimous consent, we will continue the
Kathy
regional.
put her hand up.
Okay, Kathy.
I don't have an objection. Did we have a second?
Yes, it was George.
Oh, okay, sorry. All right.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So there is no objections to the motion by unanimous consent is agreed to. Thank you, Cindy. Do you have anything else here for us?
I do have a question
believed
about
in
the
it.
Star Wars.
Yep, go ahead.
Yes.
Is that for me, Daryl?
Yes.
Okay, so Cindy mentioned that this was to be presented at the next meeting. Is that assuming a May meeting?
We have to have a May meeting because we are going to have to consider the T2 applicants.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, we'll try to keep it brief, but there was no way from the cutoff for them to review and go through all those applications and get them in a form presentable by the time the deadline for this meeting was. So I told Ann to do a thorough job with her committee and bring it back to the May meeting. So hopefully we won't get a whole lot of additional stuff. All right, Cindy Bird, anything else?
None on that.
All right.
Ready for the next?
Yep.
So we received a question from a breeder about registering cloned cats for show, pet, breeding. And our genetics committee met with the legal advisory committee and had a very interesting meeting. Leslie Lyons presented the ethics discussion, and Carol Johnson added huge amount of information. And what we came up with was that at this time, we do not accept cloned cats for registration, but it would be good to present at the annual a non-show rule resolution to affirm, and perhaps we should change the word affirm to adopt a CFA policy that cloned cats are not eligible for registration. And thank you to George for his wonderful words that you see before you.
Okay, so you want to change affirm to adopt a?
I'd rather not.
George might have that.
Okay,
The thing is, we currently do not register cloned cats. Whether it's policy or whether it's lack of ability, we don't.
okay,
So we're actually just maintaining the status quo. So affirm is more confirming the status quo.
okay, okay, I can understand that. Pam Delabar, you're recognized.
We set a policy back in either 2005, 2006, basically saying CFA will not register clone cats, period. I mean, we were out at Genetic Savings and Clone. We were at Texas A&M where cats have been cloned. We met with Lou Hawthorne, who was the president of Genetic Savings and Clone, and he brought the clones to Madison Square Garden. After that, the board met and decided we would not even entertain the thought of allowing registration of clone cats. So it goes back to that time frame, and I realized that we didn't have transcripts for minutes, but it's there. This was a big discussion on the cloning of cats.
Is during a board meeting, Pam?
Yep.
Okay, Rachel, you're recognized.
Thanks. I still have those transcripts, Pam, if anyone's interested. My question is different than what I asked Cindy about before the board meeting. Do we need a resolution to affirm something that's already in effect? I thought if it was in effect, we wouldn't make a motion to make it still be in effect. So it's redundant, if you ask me.
Yep, you're correct. Shelley, would you like to make a ruling on that?
Can I address that issue?
Yes, you may. Go ahead, George.
If the board makes a policy, it is certainly within the power of the board to ask the delegation whether they agree with that policy. This is a non-binding resolution to go to the delegation to
Okay.
determine if they agree that we should affirm the CFA policy.
Okay, that's a good point. Pam Delabar.
In this format that we're going to have for the annual meeting, do we want to bring up something that can be affirmed at a live meeting as opposed to one that voting is going to take a great deal of time, and add something that really does not need to be added to the venue of the annual meeting?
Well, Pam, we got an 8-week-old kitten that's been cloned and they're asking to register it.
And we have a policy that it won't be.
Okay.
We have a standing policy.
Okay.
Actually, I was going to say what Daryl said. This didn't arise because the genetics committee or the legal committee wanted to throw out hypotheticals. This arose because there was an actual living, breathing human being with an actual living, breathing clone that they want to register. So it's not hypothetical anymore. This isn't theoretical. There's an actual cat somebody wants to register. We have a policy that we don't register clone cats. Does the delegation agree? That's all we're asking.
Okay. Anyone else having comments? No. Okay. So we have an action item. Oh, Shelley, go ahead.
I support what George said and taking this to the delegates because it's a policy, but it's not a firm rule. And so I support taking it, and I don't see that this voting process is actually going to take that much time. So I would not be hesitating to put something to the delegates with a virtual platform. I think things are going to actually go fast and maybe even faster than they were in the in-person meeting. So I'm really hopeful about the virtual platform resolving issues about things taking a long time.
Okay. Rich, you're recognized. You're muted, Rich.
Before we call the question, can we confirm there is a second on this motion? Because I'm not exactly sure we did a second.
I seconded.
Thank you, George.
One thing I want to add, if there is a time problem, the non-show resolutions are the very last of the noticed resolutions. If we're running short, the board can always choose to withdraw it.
Okay. Rich, you got more questions? Pam Delabar, you're recognized.
Just to George, if we run short of time, we have time scheduled for Saturday morning to take it up.
Okay, thank you, Pam.
Two
All right, so let's
solutions to
vote
the
on
same
this.
problem.
There you go. That's the way we all work together. So is there any objection to presenting this resolution to the delegation, which is a non-show rule resolution? Okay, I see no hands up. Seeing there's no objection by unanimous consent, this will be presented to the delegation for ratification. All right. And Cindy, anything else on yours?
That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll go on to order number 11, Millennial Outreach. Lorna Fremont, you're recognized.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I am addressing the board today on behalf of the CFA Millennial Outreach Committee regarding the CFA International Top Cat Challenge proceeds. It's hard to believe it's already been 4 months, but the piano was not done for the previous non-emergency meeting. So the first order or action item I wanted to get clarification from the board is that the September meeting transcript states that Mr. Maston moved to amend the main motion to continue to give the event $1,000 for the marketing and an additional $500 for prizes on top of the guaranteed $1,400 that was donated by CFA for Amazon gift cards for the top 3 cats in each competitive class per event at the August board meeting. The Millennial Outreach Committee believes the definition of give means that CFA was donating the additional $1,500 to the budget, and the P&L shows that it's listed as an expense, and I just wanted to get clarification on that.
Okay, Rich Maston, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you. I want to thank Lorna, her committee, and everybody who worked on this event, and all the participants that were involved. Lorna, very good question. When we're referring to the budget is a map for the committee and for the board to go from your points of expense through your income to a profit and loss. The donation has already been, the donation outline has already been approved by the board back on September 1st, 2020. And what you had asked for, I had supported in increasing your budget line item for an additional $500 for the awards and not use $500 from your marketing. So it's not a give of a donation, it's increasing your budget request.
Okay, Lorna, you want to comment?
I don't know. I guess I just disagree. When someone says give, I kind of think that it means give.
Lorna, you didn't ask at the time for us to give any recipient a donation. You asked for an increase in your budgeted line item of awards. There's a clear difference between requesting a donation be given or requesting a line item be increased for your budgeted expense request.
Would you say that the $1,400 that was previously budgeted was a budget item or a give?
They are all budgeted items because we're referring to the budget. All you were asking was for an increase in your budgeted item. That's what the original request was. It had nothing to do with giving an additional donation or a separate donation. It was an increase to the budgeted expense line item.
Okay, Kathy Calhoun, you're recognized.
Yeah, I have just 2 comments that I am completely aligned with Rich's explanation or or statement regarding these dollars. And the other thing that I just wanted to provide some clarification, because it's been mentioned twice, about the timing on when this event was reported from a financial standpoint. So in February, which was the last time that there was a treasurer's report within February, we reported May through December. There is always a lag because in February, January has not been closed. This event had expenses in January. So there could not be a report in February because the month of January was not closed. We don't close until the middle of the following month. So I just wanted to provide some clarification because it has come up a couple of times in that regard.
Okay, thank you. Shelley?
Yeah, you know, when I look at the word give, I want to be very careful. I'm looking at, for example, the definition by Merriam-Webster. And so when we make motions and you say things like give, Merriam-Webster defines give as to make a present of, like you gave a gift, or number two, to grant or bestow, or to put into the possession of another for his or her use. Number four, I'm sorry, 2.5 is to present. Number 6 is all of these. If you look at all the definitions in Merriam-Webster, it's a gift with a release of action to the other party to do whatever they want with. And so that's just something that I can see that this has caused some discussion, because we're trying to define the word give to mean that we get it back. But that's not the common usage of the word give under Merriam-Webster. And that's all I'm pointing out.
Okay. Well, it seems like we have a conflict between what the budget committee is saying and what Lorna is interpreting. So Rich, go ahead.
Well, so once again, the initial discussion, and Shelley, thank you for sharing the information on the definition of give. The initial discussion and request was specific to the committee's request to increase their budget for awards. My comment was to give the increase rather than borrow to the line item specific to the awards, not give the funds for a donation. That was not the request. The request was to increase the awards amount. Additionally, the board has already determined how the donations will be made. It's based on the proceeds of the event, and it's a share of the proceeds determined by the executive committee. This has all been determined by the board on September 1st, 2020. It's in the report.
Okay, Kathy?
I'm taking my hand down. It was residual.
Okay. All right. So is there anything that we're going to do here? Lorna, what do you want?
I'm willing to withdraw
Okay.
number 1 and number 2.
Number 1 and number 2. Okay. All right. Number 3.
I believe that got moved to closed session.
Okay. Thank you. And did 4, that's in closed session also, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So 3 and 4 are in closed session. All right. So let me add that down here. Okay. Okay. All right. Lorna, you have anything else in an open session?
I do not. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right. Thank you. We'll see you in closed session for those 2 items. Okay. All right. Let's move on to order number 12, the treasurer's report. Kathy Calhoun, you're recognized.
Okay, thank you. So the treasurer's report is here for the time period of May 1st, 2020 through February 28th, 2021. I'm not going to drain the report. Most of the items that are negative have been driven by causes associated with the pandemic and have been consistent through the reporting period. So I'm not going to drain that. I did add a chart that I thought the board and our constituents would be interested in. This will be a chart that will probably be also presented in the treasury report for the annual, and it will have March and April added. And just to give you an idea of, how our registration, both litter and individual, how they flow through the year, we have seen consistency over the last 3 years in the flow, although you'll look at 2020 and 2021, they are significantly lower. So I just wanted to add that bit of texture to the report. If we can continue to scroll down to the last page. Okay, so you'll find the Top Cat Challenge financials that we'll probably discuss in closed session. And dropping to the bottom line, I am very, very pleased to report that our income versus expenses, which is our net operating income, is 232,000, almost 233,000. Adding interest from investments and rental income, that total comes up to $461,467. I'm very pleased to be able to report this. There's been a considerable amount of work to manage through the pandemic, done by various people in the organization. I would say everybody pulled together to be good shepherds for CFA's dollars, and is reflected in where we are. We are very, very fortunate to be able to report this kind of income in this situation.
Yeah,
Are there any questions on the report?
No, great report, Kathy, and I think our constituents will really be happy with the job you've done. Okay, any comments? Nope, doesn't look like anybody raised their hand. So Kathy, I think you're up again.
Okay, so the budget report in March, February and March, the budget committee met a number of times, probably somewhere in the area of 8 hours, to come up with next year's or the next fiscal year's budget. In that budget, that original budget, we had an operating income that was negative of $18,292. Again, keep in mind that the operating income is purely income versus expense. And we, at that point, we were negative. We had a solve for that we plan to suggest, which would involve making a decision about the February board meeting, whether it would be in person or virtual, probably mid-year. We would have an idea of how the financials would come in the first 6 months, and it would not be problematic to put together an in-person meeting in February if the financials dictated that we could. So there was less concern about the $18,000 deficit. Adding the interest in very conservatively, that net income, or commonly called the bottom line, would come up to $98,129. So this was presented to the board on March 16th. We discussed it at the board meeting. Several committee chairs requested that their detailed budgets be presented to the full board, which was done that night. On March 30th, we had an update from the International Committee chair submitting a new request. So what we have done is we've gone back to the budget and applied all of the requests as they came in to this new budget. That drives our operating income, again, which is pure income versus expense, to a negative $92,346. The budget committee does not have a solve for that. If we decide not to have a February board meeting, that board meeting typically costs about $30,000, so it does not solve for the $92,000 deficit. Adding the same conservative amount of interest income that comes up to 24,075. While we haven't been able to poll the entire budget committee, it is our standing position as a budget committee that projecting a negative operating income is of great concern. Now, I did have an action item. I would like to postpone that. We cannot, as we talked about earlier, until we resolve the bottom line, we cannot vote on the 2021-2022 budget.
Okay.
Any questions?
Do you want to handle that motion after we have the debate in closed session?
Yes. And,
okay, so
I
all
think
right.
we need to also consider if in fact, I'm a little bit uncomfortable, Daryl, about, I want to ensure that we make sure that the bottom line, whatever we decide to do, is announced in open session. So that may have to be announced in May. But I do think our constituents need to know where we landed.
Sure, I agree with that. So we can always, you know, we like we did last week, you know, move something to open from close so it can be reported.
Or if there is a plan to have a May meeting, I can put together a report at that time.
Okay, all right, okay, that'd be good too. Pam Mosier, you're recognized.
Yes, that was my comment. I wanted to make sure that this was going to be put into open session after.
Sure, absolutely. Kenny Curley, you're recognized.
Yeah, I just had a quick question for Kathy. In the time that you've acted as treasurer, has CFA in their projections ever had a negative projection for any given year?
We have had negative projections in other years, but it has not been driven by programs. It was driven because
what was driven by?
Yeah, because we had negative quite before we had the influence of China coming in from a registration standpoint. We were in a completely different situation.
Okay, well, I understand.
We did have, yes, and we did. But even at that time, it was not something that the budget committee endorsed. We did not have a solution for it at that time.
No, I understand that, Kathy, and thank you for that information.
Okay.
All right, Melanie, you're recognized.
Thank you, Daryl. I have serious concerns about a negative budget given the uncertainties of the times that we're currently facing. Kathy, question for you. When you projected our income from registrations, I mean, these are uncertain times, so I know you're basically throwing darts in the dark. But what was the basis for your projections for registrations, and do you feel that you were conservative, et cetera, on all of that?
I felt that we were realistic. At the time, we hoped that given what we knew at the time that the pandemic would waver and that we would be able to get back into business as we've had in the past. We did look back though, we took 90 to 95% of the prior year. Keep in mind, if you go back to that chart that was in the treasurer's report, the prior year was already depressed. So we took less than prior year when we took 90 to 95%. I don't feel that the pandemic would have the impact on this coming fiscal year that it had on the last fiscal year, but we did take a conservative approach.
Okay,
which I think is a realistic approach.
Anything else, Melanie?
Yeah, I feel that with registrations and what we saw, that there's somewhat of a lag time coming through. So I think that exacerbates the complexity of coming up with projections. So again, I think that uncertainty leads to my reticence to approve any sort of negative based budget in this time. But that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Pam Delabar, you're recognized.
Just a comment back to Kenny. back in the days when we were developing China, we didn't even have online registrations. We were getting in registrations in packets. When you want to increase what I'm going to call boots on the ground, more exhibitors, more breeders, many times there is an outlay of money to be able to get there. Training people to do computer programs, training, I mean, with the IT that we're developing. There are programs that sometimes you know that you're going to have to get money spent in order to reap the rewards coming back later. CFA's income has always been cyclical, and that's very hard for a lot of people to understand. I am not afraid of the 92,000 operating deficit. I just want to make sure that the money is used in a smart manner.
Okay, Kenny, you're recognized.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Pam, and I know things are cyclical in business. I've been in business for over 30 years. It's just that it does not really frighten me to show a negative budget, particularly in these times. But I do know and have to agree with you that back then you had to spend money in order to ultimately reward CFA with the efforts.
Okay, thank you, Kenny. Kathy Calhoun, you're recognized.
My recommendation is and has been that we do need to spend money to make money. Fully understand that. But I think we need to make sure that we have some visibility as to what the next year looks like. I have recommended that we balance this budget to a greater degree than almost $100,000 negative, and the committees that need additional funding take the portion of it that helps us balance the budget, which is lesser than what's in this budget, and then mid-year come back to the board with a request for incremental funding if they have spent the funding that they've already been granted. So for instance, I'm going to make this number up because I don't want to say anything that should be in closed session, but let's say we had a budget of $75,000 on a committee.
I'll take it.
Don't think that I gave you that, and I did not. This was just an analogy that we take a portion, let's say 35,000, or what number we need to bring this budget back into balance, and say you have that to work with. Go move forward, and then come back in October, mid-year. We've had some data, some understanding of how our financials, what they look like. What is this pandemic doing? What is our investments? What are they doing? And come back and say, hey, I've spent this money. These are the programs that I would like to continue to move forward on for the balance of the year. And would hope, I can't say that I'd be certain, but I would hope that our financial situation would support that and that money would be granted. My concern is to come this early in and approve a budget that is, the deficit is of this magnitude with all of the uncertainties. And I think that we need to have some compromises.
Okay, Pam Delavar, you're recognized.
I'm sorry, I forgot to take my hand down, Daryl.
Okay. All right. Anything else in open session, Kathy, for the budget?
No.
Okay, let's move on to 14, breeds and standards. Jackie Bennett. Yeah,
Daryl,
go ahead.
I had one thing on this budget, and
Okay.
we can either do it in closed session or we can do it now. Based on the information Kathy provided, we may want to address the one request that she brought up earlier, and that is to, at this point in time, not hold the in-person February board meeting. So we
Okay.
can remove that from the budget, and we will look at it as an option or a consideration to do after we receive 6 months of the P&L, if there's the additional finances to go ahead and proceed with it. And when I say additional finances, that means we're operating in the black and not in the red.
Okay.
That will handle 30,000 of the 94,000 negative
Okay.
that get.
All right,
indicated.
Kathy, are you okay with that?
I am. I think that that's inevitable.
Okay. All
I
right.
think that was probably going to be the solution for the 18 too. And I do think that, like I said earlier, I do think that very easily, you know, reinstating a February board meeting is not unmanageable in, say, October or November to do.
Okay. All
Kenny
right.
makes a motion to
Hang
cancel.
on, hold on. Let George has his hand up.
Actually, Kathy covered it. I'm good.
Okay, Rich.
Yeah, then that would be my motion to cancel the February board meeting at this time and reconsider.
Kathy seconds.
All right. Okay. Kenny beat you to the punch, Kathy.
That's probably
So the
okay.
motion, Pam Delabar.
That motion should be to cancel the in-person February board meeting.
That's correct.
Okay, that's fine. We'll take that amendment. Okay, Rachel.
Rich, could I get you for the record to restate your motion in its entirety? I think you got stepped on a couple times there. Thank
Yes,
you.
I will. My motion is to not hold the in-person board meeting in February 2022, and for the board to consider an in-person board meeting after reviewing the first 6 months of the year-to-date P&L statement.
Okay, and Kenny, are you good with that?
I am. Second.
All right, thank you. Shelley, go ahead.
Are you saying that you're going to remove the entire meeting? Or are you saying that you want to remove the in-person appearance of that board meeting?
Just the in-person, it would be virtual.
Okay.
Correct, Rich?
That is correct.
Yes.
George?
Do we want to wait all the way till December to decide, or do we want to take this up in October?
October would be the 6 month. We do it in October.
Yeah.
October is 4 months though, after the start of our fiscal year. May to June, July, August, September, October, 5 months.
Oh.
It's not 6 months.
May, June, July, August, September, October. So
Well, you know what, Kathy, you can bring it up whenever you're ready to bring it up.
thank you.
The motion here is to not, is right now to potentially cancel it.
And reconsider it later.
Yes, and reconsider it at a later date. Rich, you want to restate what your motion is again, so we all are on the same page?
Sure. Motion to not hold the in-person board meeting in February 2022 and reconsider holding an in-person board meeting at a later date after reviewing the P&L statements.
Okay.
Kenny seconds it as stated.
Okay, thank you. All right, any discussion on that motion? Okay, is there any objection to Rich and Kenny's motion? Hearing no objection, by unanimous consent, the motion is adopted. All right, order number 14, breeds and standards, Jackie Bennett and Teresa Kiger, you're recognized, whichever one's going to take the lead.
Good evening, everybody. The Breeds and Standards Committee has one action they'd like the board to consider, which is the reconsideration of the Burmese Breed Council vote for the extension of the outcross for Bombay and Tonkinese. The requested opinion ballots were done, and you can see them within this report. And we would like, as discussed in the last board meeting, the reconsideration of the Burmese ballot item.
Okay. And for the record, would you state the action item, Jackie?
The action item is for the board to reconsider the Burmese Breed Council ballot item requesting the extension of the outcross of the Tonkinese and the Bombay for the Burmese breed.
Okay, would you change reconsider to approve?
Approve, yes, please.
Okay. All right, any, we need somebody to make the motion.
Rachel makes the motion.
George
Thank you.
seconds.
And thank you, George. So this is just basically, we voted to pull those two breed councils since they are affected breeds. And they have been polled. Now we have our action item. So Rachel, you're recognized.
Thank you. Technically, we're taking this off the table. So do we need, because these two proposals were tabled, do
Okay.
we need to take care of that business first, or would that?
Sure, that's fine.
I don't think so, because we didn't table indefinitely. We tabled to a date certain.
That's right, we did.
Great.
Yep, table indefinitely kills the bill. So we didn't do that. We tabled until we could get the polling done, and that's done. So we've met what the table was. Okay. All right. Any discussion? Any objection? Oh, Melanie, you're recognized.
Yeah, given the fact that there was a shortened period of balloting for these other breeds, and we're looking at a 10 years, I have a real concern with doing an outcross for a full 10 years in this instance. So I can't support this. I just wanted, and I've been approached by breeders from the Tonkinese Bombay breeds with their concerns, who were perhaps, outvoted, but based off the fact that there is some controversy surrounding this, I am going to withhold my vote on this.
Okay, Sharon Roy, you're recognized.
Hold on. Yeah, so I was going to say pretty much what Melanie said. By not having it go through the proper channels, and there was just no time for the breeders to discuss or any give and take with the Burmese breed. I understand people are learning, and there's not much we can do about it now, but I do think that going forward, we shouldn't even take it up until the next balloting cycle.
Okay, thank you for your comments there, Sharon. Anyone else? Okay, let's call the vote. All those in favor of the motion to allow extend the outcross for 10 years, raise your hands, please.
Are we voting on each of those items separately, or all of them as a block?
Rachel, you made the motion.
The motion was to vote on both of them together.
Okay.
I believe there's 3 of them. If you scroll down a little more, there might be another one. Nope. Yeah.
Oh, there's 4. There's a number 4 also.
Yeah. Yeah, there's 3 of them.
3, 2. Okay, yep. So items 2, 3, and 4 is what we're voting on. That correct, Rachel? Shake your head, yes. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Pam Delabar, you're recognized.
Sorry, I was getting ready to vote.
Oh, okay. All right. Kenny, did you have anything to say, or are you voting? All right. If you're in favor of, okay, if you support 2, 3, and 4, and voting yes, raise your hands, please. The yes votes are Rachel Anger, George Eigenhauser, Cindy Bird, Rich Maston, Kenny Curley, Pam Delabar, Kathy Dunham, Hayata San, Carol Krasnowski, Steve McCullough. If you all would take your hands down. And if you're voting no, please raise your hand. Hayata, are you a yes or a no? I thought I called you a yes. Okay. All right. The no votes are Melanie Morgan, Kathy Calhoun, Brian Mosier, Sharon Roy, John Kalila, and Pam Mosier. Are there any abstentions? Oh, Howard. Is Howard still on? Howard clapped, so he's a yes. Okay. Kathy Calhoun, are you voting no?
I'm a no.
Okay. All right. All right, Rachel, did I call everyone? Abstentions, anybody? Okay, you want to announce the vote, Rachel?
I have 11 yes votes, 6 no votes, 0 abstentions.
Okay, thank you. The motion is adopted. All three proposals that we voted on are ratified. Jackie, you have anything else?
Everything else is in the report. If there are any questions, we did have the one item which the Breeds and Standards Committee created to propose for the annual. If you recall, in a previous board meeting, it had been the recommendation of the parliamentarian that we create a proposal for a constitutional amendment when we had asked if we could do housekeeping changes, and it was
Okay.
ruled unconstitutional. That is in here, and basically I wanted to know if there are any questions concerning this.
Okay. Melanie, you recognize?
Thank you. Hang on one second. Yeah, I have to say that as a Breed Council secretary, I'm in the Breed Council list. And when it was brought to the Breed Council list, the majority of the Breed Council secretaries seemed to be against this proposal, with most of the people who were actually in favor of it being also rather lukewarm. The count that I got were 15 Breed Council secretaries responded, with 9 against the constitutional amendment, 6 in favor, or at least neutral about it. And my comments on this were as follows, and I thought I'd share them with the board as well. What I put out on the Breed Council list was, while I commend the desire to clean up the standards, I don't think that a resolution requiring the changing of our constitution is required. And I think that, as an aside here, that's something that we discussed at the board meeting where this was brought up initially. I think it's important to stress that constitutional amendments should never be taken lightly, and especially not considered when there are viable alternatives in place that would address the matters without changing something as important as the CFA's constitution. I believe the request to make grammatical corrections to the standards was brought to the board in October 2020. At that time, it was suggested the Breeds and Standards Committee prepare the corrections as needed and submit ballots with the suggested changes to each Breed Council in question for inclusion on the ballots for that year. This would effectively accomplish the objective without requiring a change to the Constitution, without running the risk that the actual intent of a specific standard might inadvertently be altered. It also just plain simplify the whole process. I stand by those comments, and I believe that they echo the sentiments of many of the other Breed Council secretaries. This project is a really good one, and I commend the Breeds and Standards Committee for bringing it up. But it doesn't need, nor should it have, a constitutional amendment that will needlessly complicate the procedure and further erode the power of the individual Breed Councils.
Thank you, Melanie. George, you're recognized.
Yeah, although this wasn't specifically called out as an action item, they do say that this would come from the committee or come from the board or come from the clubs it's associated with. So if the board is going to take this up as an action item, then we should probably debate whether we support it or not. If the club, and if the board is not going to take this up as an action item, then we should probably just let it go and let it be debated by the delegates.
May I respond to Melanie's comments?
Yes, you may.
So Melanie, I have a slightly different count than you do. While there were only 16 people that commented on the Breed Council list, we got quite a bit of positive response in person and privately. We did put it up for everybody to review. And we're obviously not asking the board to decide whether or not this is a good idea. What we're asking is that we wanted to inform the board that we intended this to go up as an amendment because we are a committee of this board. And I'd like to see the delegates discuss it. The reason that we thought that this was a viable solution was multiple. One, a single project will clean them up this year. And then in another 5 to 10 years, you will find that they are back in the same condition again, either through just missing or the fact that you don't have professional writers on breed standards, and that's fully acceptable. 2, if we do them all as a project, you have a glut of work for central office because everything has to be done under the balloted time, whereas this could be done based on a risk-based approach with the most popular breeds first and over time without overwhelming the board. And it would allow future committees to also be able to do this while having check gates of both breed council secretaries having to approve it or it doesn't go forward, and then the board going through it. So it has 3 levels of review to make sure that there is no change in intent. It's very limited. We did have this reviewed by Cindy Bird to help us with the language. We did run this through a lot of breed council secretaries and a number of clubs. It's not an attempt to take power away from breed councils, and it's very limited. Whereas we might change Ebony capitalized to Ebony lowercase, we would never change Ebony to Black as an example, because that would not be a grammatical change. However, we could get rid of standards which have non-proper nouns capitalized throughout and are written in, quite honestly, a very sophomoric way and become the image of CFA in the public. And that's what we want to do, is improve the image of CFA. And that's why we thought this was a better methodology to go through.
Okay, George Eigenhauser.
And again, I'm not going to discuss the substance. I just want to talk about procedure. There are
Okay.
3 choices mentioned in the report. Come from the committee, come from the board, or come from the clubs. I don't think there's a motion pending for it to come from the board. I don't believe board committees can sponsor constitutional amendments. We've never
Yeah,
allowed
I
that
was gonna make
before.
that comment. Yeah.
So that narrows it down to it's got to come from a club. And that's my understanding of where we are procedurally on this. And that's all I wanted to comment on was procedure.
Absolutely fine.
Okay. Does any board member want to make a motion to make this a board sponsored resolution? So I don't see anybody raising their hand, Jackie. So I think if take your club and present this as a resolution from your club. Okay.
Absolutely. Are there any
Right.
other questions on the report?
No, thank you for your good work. We appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Order number 15, new club applications. Carol Krasnowski, you're recognized.
Sorry. Here we go.
Carol, you're muted.
I'm on mute. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We have one new club application to consider tonight. It's Fengtian S Cat Club. This club is located in Shenyang, a major sub-provincial city and the capital of Liaoning Province in northeast China. Liaoning Province sits on the northern shore of the Yellow Sea. Shenyang is the largest city in northeast China based on its population of close to 8 million. The city is an important center for industry and scientific research. Nearly all of the members are active breeders and exhibitors, and 2 have show production experience. All of the other members are actively exhibiting at CFA shows. If accepted, this club plans to help promote CFA in China, work closely with animal welfare societies, and produce 4 to 6 shows a year in Shenyang, Beijing, and surrounding cities. My motion is to accept this club.
Rachel?
I will second the motion with the comment that this is a very active area in China, known for putting on lots of really excellent shows.
Yes. Yep. Okay. Anyone else have any comments? Okay. So we have a motion and a second, Carol and Rachel, to accept Fengtian S Cat Club. Any objection to the acceptance of this club into the CFA family? Hearing no objection, by unanimous consent, the club is accepted. Carol, you have anything else?
No, that's all I have for this evening. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much. Order number 16, Kenny Curley, you're recognized for the International Division. Oh, I forgot to ask if Russell had any comments on that club. I know he's on.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Good deal. All right. It's accepted, Russell. Thank you. Sorry, I passed you up. Okay, Kenny Curley,
Yeah, basically,
International Division.
yeah. I have 3 members of the International Division. Mr. Zenda has sent in a report. Gavin and Russell just want a quick overview. they'll make it as brief as possible. I want
Okay.
to thank them publicly for the work that they've done overseas. And we'll talk more about what the plans are moving
Okay.
forward. So let me
All right,
hand it
good
over
deal.
to.
Well,
Pardon
how
me?
about let's ask Bob if he wants to clarify anything in his report first.
No, thanks very much. I've got a really bad connection, so I think the report stands. It lets you know what's really going on and what I've gotten so far. If you have any questions about it, I'd be happy to answer it.
Okay, good deal. Thank you, Bob. Russell, you want to go next?
I'm going to be quick. This is just a brief progress report on what we're doing in China. We established working agreements with 6 Chinese local NGOs and completed CFA NGO filing in China 9 times for district cities, drastically improving CFA's legislation efforts in China. We're anticipating at least 3 to 4 more cities to be open by the end of 2022. In the period of late October 2020 to the end of April 2021, we will have produced in total 24 shows in China, about 14 in Western China, with additional 10 in Eastern China. Anticipating total number of shows to be produced in 2021-2022 season to greatly exceed the current season. Education, we had conducted a 90-minute entry clerk training session. Gavin Cow oversaw this for all 5 Chinese central entry clerks with great success. We have conducted 3 clerking schools in China by the end of 2020-2021 season. Our policy was to create innovative local policy for assigning club show dated fairly and evenly amongst the Chinese clubs to minimize conflicts and to encourage healthy growth in their region, providing timely support to all CFA NGO event filing efforts in China. I'm going to skip over the marketing because we'll do that in closed session. But Gavin,
Okay,
Gavin, you're on, right?
Gavin, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here. Just
Okay.
give me a minute.
You do the shipping part of it.
Yeah, so this is actually a very detailed issue. So I think this arises from a conversation I had with Arlene from Central Office. So historically, for mainland China, the show packages are actually mailed from the US directly. And there were some issues with it. First, it was really costly for CFA, to do all the shipping. And secondly, a lot of times the clubs do not receive the show packages on time because of the distance and sometimes because of the custom checks. So what happened last term? I think Matt and Suki, they did a lot of work and they volunteered to have the show package material to be sent from US to Hong Kong. And then they then shipped all the show packages from Hong Kong to all the mainland clubs in China. And so by doing that, the shipping cost was significantly reduced on CFA's part, and the show packages would arrive on time. So it was a huge improvement, and thanks to Matt and Suki for providing that service. But there are still some issues that are left. First of all, the leg between Hong Kong and mainland China. Although Hong Kong is a part of China, we have to go through customs. And the shipping cost is somewhere between $25 to $60 per package, depending on the club's location and also the shipping weight. And I think since last term, the clubs in China are actually paying for these show package delivery for the last leg of the trip. And also, I think CFA, when they send over the 2-part and 3-part paper, which takes up the most of the weight of the show package material, we're still paying quite a lot of money. So Aline and I actually looked into this issue. I tried to look for some suppliers for the 2-part, 3-part paper. And so I think we were able to procure the 2-part, 3-part paper in China, at expenses that, it wouldn't cost anything higher. So it would be at reasonable prices. So what we are proposing is that from now on, we will be actually purchasing the 2-part, 3-part paper in China locally. And we hope that CFA will expense it. And for the show materials, additional show materials, such as the show rules, as well as judge final sheets, brief summary sheets. I think for now, we still need US to ship to mainland China. And we have already talked with the ID rep Eva Chan and the ID Eastern rep Agnes Sun. They've agreed to help. So I think we can ship the additional show materials to these 2 locations. And depending on where the show is put on, either one of the IDs reps can actually help the clubs to ship the materials over. And right. And also, I think by doing that, CFA will be able to save a lot of money on on shipping the 2-part and 3-part paper to China, which is not needed because we have it here.
Okay.
And also I think for the clubs, if we take this approach, we don't need to. I mean, the clubs do not need to pay for the last leg of the shipping, and it will be much quicker and more reliable in comparison.
Great.
So that's
okay.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
that's what we are hoping for.
Okay, good deal. So you guys gave us a lot of information. So in the future, could you guys put that in a report and get it to us so the board can read it ahead of time? It would really help speed things along in the meeting if you would submit it in report form to Rachel so she can distribute it to the board. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll do.
Sorry, I just want to say the reason why it came in late was because we were planning to have it submitted for the next meeting, but there were some club complaints about the fee that they pay for the last leg, because right now I think China clubs are the only clubs that are paying for this shipping on the show packages. So we felt that this is an urgent matter and should be addressed in this meeting. But yeah, we'll take notice and we'll make sure to submit stuff.
Good deal. Thank you. Rachel, you're recognized.
Thanks. They submitted a report today, but I thought it would be better if they just read it into the record than send it so far after the deadline.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Anything else from the international division? Any the 4 of you?
That's it for now.
Okay, good deal. Thank you. George, you have the protest report. Anything in open session?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, let's go on to reports of special ad hoc committees. And the COVID-19, we're moving that to closed session. Is that correct?
No, only the first motion under the board action items.
Okay.
Everything else is open
go
session.
Okay, go ahead, George.
So we had our last COVID committee meeting, I believe, on March 22nd, when we prepared the revised COVID guidelines that the board approved online. These are other things that have come in that have been brought to our attention that we feel need to be brought to the board's attention in order to get guidance. Some of it, the first item duplicates something that's going to come up from the judging committee. That's why that got moved to be with theirs. Another has to do with surveying judges about being vaccinated, about whether we should have a requirement of temperature testing when required by local mandate, and whether judges should remind clerks and stewards when they're not wearing their masks. There are 4 remaining actions items, motions 2 through 5. I would move to accept all of them, reserving the right to vote no.
Rich will second.
Okay. Thank you, Rich.
Okay, it's called the second.
So
it's called the second motion, but the first one we're going to discuss is, should we survey the judges on being vaccinated and their intent on being vaccinated. So the motion is to survey the judges.
Okay, Rachel?
So my question is this a blind survey where the responses will remain private? I'm just wondering how close we are into getting into HIPAA violations.
Yeah, can we have a second before we debate it?
We already did.
Daryl, I second all the motions.
Right.
This
Oh,
is
you
Rich.
did, okay, all right, I missed it, sorry. Okay. George, you want to answer Rachel?
Actually, one of the things I was going to do is discuss that when we got to the survey. One of the things I would like to do is in the survey, and you can see that on the screen where it says, I've been vaccinated, I'm in the process of being vaccinated, I'm scheduled to be vaccinated, I'm undecided about being vaccinated, I will not be vaccinated. Add one more after that, decline to state. And that way, anyone who wants to preserve their privacy has the right to do so.
Okay, Cindy Bird?
I'm just wondering what happens with this information and why it's needed.
It came to our attention that some judges would like to know, especially when we're dealing with these training situations, although that's going to be a separate motion. It also has to do with whether people who are working with the judges are comfortable. There's a lot of.
So this will be public information?
Not
No,
necessarily.
no.
One of the choices when you get down into the schedule is I authorize the other people to know. I do not authorize other people to know.
I see.
So judges have the absolute right to say, I don't tell anyone. And we can even put decline to state, earlier in there too, so that we don't even have the information to give out even if we wanted to.
Thank you, George.
But this is
okay,
basically to allow for planning.
Yep, Pam Delbar, you're recognized.
This is something I've been looking into, not only for Europe, but how it pertains to the US as well. Private organizations such as ourselves, it appears, can require personnel such as judges to be vaccinated. And one of the interesting articles was based upon smallpox, when they actually would stop people to check their arms to see if they had been smallpox vaccinated. And that was in the US. In Europe, we're finding different countries have different attitudes on judges. Right now in Finland, we're having a problem with, I want a vaccine passport. Well, we don't have a vaccine passport. Therefore, I can go back and say, you're not being fair to me because I cannot travel on my job without a vaccine passport. So this is being discussed in various governments throughout Europe. But going back to the US, where we have our preponderance of judges, and Shelley may have to check this out, but right now, I think that we can require judges to be vaccinated.
Okay, Kenny Curley.
Yeah, I just have privacy concerns such as others. Now, I understand CFA is not necessarily the employer. This would have to give the clubs the right to enforce this. Again, I think it's just a little bit too intrusive in what has become a really hot issue, particularly here in the United States. So, I mean, it doesn't really affect me since I am fully vaccinated, but that doesn't make me any more safe, depending upon what happens in the future, than somebody who hasn't been vaccinated. So to me, that's just a slippery slope.
Okay, Pam Mosier, you're recognized.
Thank you. I have to tend to agree with Kenny on this. I was going to say basically the same thing, that I don't believe that we are personnel. I think that we are independent contractors, and I do think it's just going a little bit too far.
Okay, Steve McCullough.
That's what I was going to say. I checked with my attorneys. People at central office, because they are part of the private corporation, as terms of employment, have to provide and be vaccinated. Judges are independent contractors and they don't have to follow the rules.
Okay,
But
George,
since
I
it
get,
is a
oh,
big
sorry.
ordeal, I think that should be part of relicensing.
Okay, people are getting a little off point here. The question is not, should we mandate judges be vaccinated? That was never the question. The question is, should we even ask judges their intentions about being vaccinated? And this is not a privacy issue. As I said before, I'd like to amend the second item, which is the actual survey itself, to include decline to state. And it already has in there, I do not authorize others to know. So the privacy has already been addressed in the following motion in the survey itself. The only question is, do we even want to ask at all? Not what should we do with the information? How should we distribute the information? It's just, should we even ask at all? That's the motion.
Okay, thank you, George. Carol?
Yes, I'm also concerned a little bit about the privacy, and I'm also concerned about what are we going to do with the information once we get it? Who are we going to allow to see that information? So there lies a privacy issue there. And this is something that may take care of itself down the road as the World Health Organization and the CDC and various governments throughout the world decide to address vaccination as a means of travel or whatever. So it may take care of itself eventually, but I do have some privacy concerns over it.
Well, I think part of the intent of this was to help with the training program, to find out which judges are vaccinated and willing to work with trainees. And so we can't make those assignments or make a decision on that until we know if the people have been vaccinated or not. So if we approve a return to training, then the training file administrators are going to have to contact the judges because both of our trainees are vaccinated. So we know that. I didn't mean to disclose that, but I did. But I don't think they care. They want to get back into training. Okay. That's what this sort of where this started from. So Brian Mosier, you're recognized.
Yeah, I was the one that pretty much brought this up. I called Rich one day and we were talking about this. And my feeling was that I don't see anything wrong with the survey myself, but I've been vaccinated, so I guess I wouldn't feel bad about the survey. But I was thinking, like, if you had a clerk that possibly wasn't vaccinated or was vaccinated and a judge that wasn't vaccinated, maybe that clerk would not want to clerk for that judge. Or a mother of a steward that was worried about her child being in a ring that people weren't vaccinated. I know that, and I feel this will all go away sooner or later, but this is a concern, I think, right now for people.
Yep. Carol?
Actually, Brian's comment raised another question of mine. What about the clerks in the ranks? Because they're working very closely with the trainee judges as well. Can we require them to be vaccinated, or should we survey them to be whether or not they're vaccinated? And again, who is the recipient of that information? And how is it going to be distributed to the judges or to the stewards working in that ring? That's my question. I think it's a little more complex than it may appear on the surface.
Well, what are the judges going to do if they don't want a clerk that's not been vaccinated clerking for them? That needs to be addressed. George?
And let me remind everyone that the CDC is already starting to loosen the requirement when fully vaccinated people gather together. How do you know if you're subject to the more relaxed rules if you don't know who in the group has or has not been vaccinated? Again, no one is saying we're going to put this on a billboard for everybody to see. What we're saying is we want to gather this information. We'll talk to our attorney. We'll find out how we can use it, and we'll use it wisely. But should we even have the information in the first place? That's the question.
Okay. Melanie?
Yeah, I want to point out, maybe I'm wrong, but just because you're vaccinated, there's not enough data to know whether that means that you don't transmit. It means that you probably, hopefully, won't die as long as you're part of the 95%. But so just if you have 2 vaccinated people, that's fine. If you have 2 vaccinated people and 1 non-vaccinated people, it doesn't mean that the vaccinated people aren't necessarily going to infect a non-vaccinated person.
Well,
We
there's
don't
some,
have a lot of data on how these vaccines are working yet. It's still fairly new. Certainly, we're all feeling a little better as more and more of our friends are becoming somewhat protected. But my understanding is truly that it gets rid of the lethal portions of this. So
well, Melanie, there was a report recently that if you're fully vaccinated, you don't carry it, you don't transmit it. But there's always somebody that's going to say that's not correct. Kathy Dunham?
I have a couple of concerns. One, like Carol and a couple others have said, our clerks are not even in this discussion yet about a possible survey. And if that happens, how are you going to ensure you get all of the clerks? Because there are a large portion of clerks that are not licensed. So you have twofold to deal with there, I think, certified versus non-certified. And then the second thing is, if this was a concern, why wasn't it brought up back in November, October, November, when shows actually started? Thanks.
Well, there weren't any vaccines at the time, Kathy. That's one of the reasons. We didn't get vaccines until December. So Pam Delabar, you're recognized.
Yeah, and I think we need to get back on subject with the judges, and that we've got 121 judges that we can possibly survey. I am in favor of this. I believe that we have the ability to keep the sensitive information confidential, and we should approve, finding out who are our main ambassadors to the public are safe. Not only safe to themselves, but safe to the public.
Yep. Well, I'll disclose I'm fully vaccinated. I know Kenny has disclosed it. I don't care if people know or don't know. All right, let's get back to George's motion, which is, do we want to survey the judges? That's the question. So let's vote on that, because the rest of it may be moot. So all those in favor of, should we survey the judges, including training judges, on being vaccinated and their intent to be vaccinated? All right, so all those in favor. Melanie, yes. George, yes. Brian Mosier, yes. Rich Maston, yes. Kathy Calhoun, John Kalila, Pam Delabar, Carol Krasnowski, Sharon Roy. Howard is a thumbs up.
Did you see Kathy Calhoun?
Yes, he did.
Did I call you Kathy?
You did, yes.
Okay, all right.
We didn't call her twice, so I didn't hear it.
Oh, okay. And Hayata, you are a yes. Okay. Everybody take your hands down. Those voting no, raise your hand. Okay, I have Pam Mosier, Cindy Bird, Kathy Dunham, Steve McCullough, Rachel Anger. You'll take your hands down. Any abstentions? Rachel Anger and Kenny Curley. Okay. You can announce the vote, Rachel, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. I was actually a no vote, not an abstention. I apologize. Couldn't get my hand down.
Okay.
I have 11 yes votes, 5 no votes, 1 abstention.
Okay, so the motion is agreed to. All right, let's move on to number 3.
Number 3 is the actual survey. And I've already stated that after the I will not be vaccinated for health, religious, or other reasons, we should add I decline to state.
Okay.
I think people should have that option.
All
But
right,
with that,
Rich.
Yep, my standing second.
Yep. Okay, and you agree to the addition?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, George, you want to comment any further?
No, I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
I agree. All right, anybody else have any comments? Pam Mosier?
Yeah, so if this passes and somebody just decides, the judge decides they're not even gonna fill it out, I mean, what's is there some kind of penalty or what?
I think that's a pretty obvious, I decline to state.
Yep.
Oh, okay, so do you even need to fill out your name if I decline to state?
We won't know who responded. We don't know who declines to state if they don't decline to state.
Okay.
All you got to do is check you decline to state it, Pam, if you don't want anybody to know.
Okay, but see at the top, it says your name and date, so you just wouldn't put your name and date there.
Well, no, you put your name and date there and put you decline to state.
Okay.
That way, they'll know who
voted and who didn't.
That they're going to have to tabulate.
You're abstaining.
Yep. Okay, Pam, anything else? Mosier?
No.
Sharon Roy, you're recognized.
I don't think we answered Pam's question. What are the consequences to a judge who just completely ignores the survey? Doesn't check off, I don't want to
They don't get counted. We didn't put any penalty in this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kathy Calhoun, you're recognized.
So could the fact that all judges that don't respond default to decline to state?
Well, I think that's what George's statement
yeah, so
was.
you would just assume you would attach decline to state with that name or no response.
Generally speaking, we're not going to put any names with any of these unless somebody specifically says, I authorize allowing others to know. Unless they check that box, we're not telling their names to anybody outside the board.
Got it. Thank you.
Steve McCullough, you're recognized. You're muted, Steve.
Sorry about that. I'll click it again. What's this information is going to be used for? I mean, is it just for judge trainees and the other? You can't come to the show hall if you don't answer this, or if you answer this and I'm not going to get vaccinated. Now we're going to kick those judges out of the show hall till they are vaccinated. What's the downside? I mean, you've got to make a decision who can come in and who cannot based on this survey.
Right now, there are certain activities, such as working with trainees, that the judging committee is expressing a preference that they be vaccinated. There may be other things along the line in the future as COVID rules loosen up and vaccinated people are permitted to do things that unvaccinated people are not, like gathering in smaller groups. So we don't know what the ultimate effect of this is until the situation arises. The question is, should we have the information or should we wait till the last minute and scramble to get it?
So we'll discriminate against those that have not been vaccinated.
We will not take any action to discriminate against anyone, but we'll use this to comply with the law and social distancing requirements in the future.
So how's that different than now?
We don't know yet.
Yeah, we know what the policy is today.
We know that some of the social distancing policies are different for vaccinated and unvaccinated.
Like what? I haven't read that.
Well, yeah, if you're two people that are both vaccinated, they can be with less than 6 feet and they don't have to wear a mask. We require a mask because of our policy.
Correct.
So we could relax the policy and allow them to interact more freely if they've been vaccinated because the CDC says we can. This is going to help us comply with the law.
I just see it as disfranchising those judges that have been vaccinated. Because you wouldn't want them in the show hall, you wouldn't want them around you. Why would you want them around the clerks?
Well, Steve, right now, we've got people that haven't been vaccinated. They wear a mask and they social distance. That's what the CDC guidelines are. But if you have two people that are fully vaccinated, then they can be less than 6 feet away, and they actually don't have to wear a mask, according to the CDC. And I'm saying our policy, board policy that we adopted requires everybody in a show hall to wear a mask,
Correct.
even if they've been fully vaccinated. So we're not discriminating against people that have not been vaccinated. They just have to, they need to maintain the 6 feet distance and wear a mask. Melanie, you're recognized.
Never mind. So, thank you.
Steve, you have anything else you want to add?
Nope.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yep, you're very welcome. Okay, any other comments? All right, let's call the vote on the motion number 3, which is this survey. All those
As
in favor,
amended.
as amended, yes. Okay. All those in favor, raise your hands, please. So the yes votes are Rich Maston, George Eigenhauser, John Kalila, Pam Delabar, Cindy Bird, Carol Krasnowski, Melanie Morgan, Brian Mosier, Kathy Calhoun, and Howard Webster. And let's see, did I call Hayata-san?
Abstain.
Abstain? Okay, all right. Okay, take your hands down. The no votes, please raise your hand. Kathy Dunham, Steve McCullough, Pam Mosier, Sharon Roy. Okay, if you'll take your hands down. Abstentions is Kenny Curley, Rachel Anger, and Hayata-san. Okay, Rachel, you are you an I think I called you, so all right, you can announce the vote when you have it tabulated.
Okay, that's 10 yes, 4 no, 3 abstain.
Okay, so the motion is ratified. Okay, George, let's go to the next.
Wait, Daryl?
Yes.
Daryl,
Yeah.
it's Eileen. I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Who's conducting the survey? Is the judging program conducting it? Is the central office? Just wondering.
George?
I don't know that we discussed it, Rich.
Well,
Yeah.
I think Vicky and I should be the one doing it.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Works for me.
Vicky, are you on?
I am on.
And are you willing to keep
Yeah.
this and keep it private?
Yes, of course. Would
Okay.
I also survey the associate judges?
Sure, why not?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
All
right.
Once this is, if
And
somebody
I-
can please send me a clean copy of the survey.
Sure. And you want to send it out to the judges then once you get the clean copy, Vicky?
Yes, I will. Yeah.
Okay. All right, George, you'll clean it up and send it to Vicky.
Sure.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go on to the 4th motion, which is actually the 3rd motion.
Somebody's got their TV turned on or something because I'm getting a lot of noise. Thank you. The 4th motion came as a result of a inquiry from somebody that some club was taking temperatures because it was required by local authority. Shouldn't CFA require all shows to do it when required by local authority? This is the one I might vote no on because our existing rules already say item one of our COVID requirements, now I'm getting an echo, state that clubs must comply with local, county, state, national, and event facility regulations. So I don't understand why, if the local facility or the local government requires they take temperature, it's not already covered by that.
Okay. Comments, Pam Delabar?
I agree with George on this. The current readings on the status of taking temperatures are saying that basically we're not getting good readings in most cases, and it's really sort of a futile exercise. So if the local government requires it, then do it, but let's not require our clubs to do it
Okay,
if they don't have to.
sure. All right. All right, so we have a motion and a standing motion that is require host clubs to take temperatures. You ready for the question? All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, nobody. All those opposed, raise your hand. Okay, the no votes are Melanie Morgan, Kenny Curley, Carol Krasnowski, George Eigenhauser, Pam Delabar, Sharon Roy, Rachel Anger, Pam Mosier, Cindy Bird, Kathy Dunham, Rich Maston, Steve McCullough, John Kalila, Brian Mosier, Kathy Calhoun, Hayata San, and Howard Webster. All right, if you'll take your hands down. Any abstentions? Okay, no abstentions. So looks like it's unanimous no. Rachel, you can announce the final vote.
We had 0 yes votes, 17 no votes, 0 abstentions.
Okay, the motion is not agreed to. All right, George, number 5.
And the last one came about as a result of complaints that clerks are not wearing their masks and the judges aren't saying anything to them. So this says the judges shall remind, not beat or torture or whip. It just says remind their clerks and adult stewards to wear a mask. And if there's a problem, they can send it to the show management. We don't want judges giving instructions to people's children. So if there's a minor steward, that they would be reminded by their parent or guardian.
Okay, Kenny Curley, you're recognized. You're muted, Kenny.
I can't support this.
Okay. John Kalila, you're recognized.
Yes, I talked to Vicky, and I already sent a email to all the clerks asking them nicely to cover their nose as a to protect the CFA family.
Okay.
There's like 130 something people that was on the list.
Okay. All right. Any other comments? Okay, it's not like we're torturing them. We're just gently reminding them. Okay. All right, John, you want to take your hand down? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, raise your hand.
Kathy just raised her. Oh,
are you voting, Kathy, or want to comment?
Actually, I want to comment.
Okay.
As I think about this, is this really the task of the judge, or should the judge call show management over? Because one of the things, like the child steward will be reminded by parent to wear, the judge is not going to know who his parent is. Well, they might, but they're not going to be able to seek out a parent. So is this really the judge's responsibility?
Well, the judge is in charge of the ring, Kathy, according to the show rules.
Well, I get that, but how is the judge going to find this child steward's parent? Call for the parent over the PA?
Well, I think they should get the show manager to.
Yeah. If they can't, they can't. You know, no one's asking them to do the impossible.
Yep. Okay. All right, let's vote. All those in favor, raise your hand. So the yes votes are Brian Mosier, George Eigenhauser, Pam Delabar, Pam Mosier, Kathy Calhoun, Rachel Anger, John Kalila, Cindy Bird, Rich Maston, Carol Krasnowski, Hayata San, Melanie Morgan, Steve McCullough, and Howard Webster. And if you'll take your hands down. All right. Are there any no votes? If you're voting no, please raise your hand. Kenny Curley is a no. Thank you, Kenny. If you'll lower your hand. Any abstentions? Oh, Sharon and Kathy Dunham, are you no votes?
Yes, I am a no vote, Kathy.
Okay. All right. So Kenny, Sharon, and Kathy Dunham are no votes. Any abstentions? Sharon, you want to take your hand down? I know you were a no vote. Okay, so no abstentions. Rachel, you can announce a vote when you have it tabulated.
That's 14 yes votes, 3 no votes, 0 abstentions.
Okay, thank you very much. George, you have anything else in open session?
No, thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on to the virtual annual committee, and that's Rich Maston.
Yeah. Yes, thank you, Daryl. I'm going to turn this over to Aline.
Okay. All right, I'm not going to go over every detail on this. It's there for everybody. You probably already read it. Of course, if there's any questions, please feel free to ask. So delegate registration is scheduled for Tuesday. We will be prepared to handle 2 to 3 people at a time using what we call breakout rooms in the Zoom meeting. And then we will be sending the registration links at a later date, or not the registration, but the Zoom meeting link. Any questions on that? Steve?
Hang on, Steve McCullough.
Okay.
Is this really called an annual delegate meeting?
Well, it's Friday's meeting, the delegate meeting.
Because the Constitution requires you to do this in Region 3. It cannot be skipped. So you can have your virtual meeting, but you have to do it by Constitution in Region 3 or cancel it. It doesn't have a leeway that you can jack with it at will.
Okay, Pam
My
Mosier,
comment.
you're reg.
Okay, thanks. I do think Steve has a point on that because I made the same point last year. But also, I feel that it's problematic with this voting. I have issues. I let Kathy Dunham know that, you know, when you're voting in a room full of people, you can see their hands. This is going to be done by computer, and I'm not going to know. Let's say I'm a delegate for Lewis and Clark. I'm not going to see that my vote was counted which way, and I should be able to see that, as far as I'm concerned, with, you know, within minutes, so that I can tell that my vote was cast properly. And so I do have some issues with how this is being done.
Okay, Rich Maston, you're recognized.
Yeah, so I can't comment on Pam's concern on seeing the voting. I just want to comment on Steve's concern, and Shelley may have to chime in on this. I understand the Constitution is calling out this is supposed to be held in Region 3. However, New York State, under its current restrictions and mandates, do allow businesses in New York State during this COVID pandemic. They can hold Zoom meetings virtually through the end of this year. I don't know how you determine whether a virtual meeting is held in Region 3 or it's held in a different region. But under New York State law, it requires it, or it allows it to.
Okay,
But the law
Shelley.
requires it to be in our bylaws, and it's not.
Well,
That's the
Steve,
problem.
we can't meet. We cannot meet face to face. And so we're going on New York not-for-profit corporate law, which has amended the law to allow for a virtual meeting. And that's what we're going on. Shelley, would you like to weigh in here?
Well, the basic premise is that New York law is the top priority. And then below that is our Constitution. And so if the Constitution conflicts with New York law wins. And New York law specifically said that we can have board meetings virtually. And that means it trumps what our Constitution says about whatever region you're saying that this has to be held in at this time. So I would say that New York law allows this to be held virtually. At the same time, I don't see the region issue as trumping New York law or replacing it or anything like that, but I do see it conflicting. And then that means that New York law wins, which is this is a virtual meeting. And so it's going to be held virtually as opposed to in any location.
Thank you, Shelley. George, you're recognized.
And I just want to mention that one of the things we've been doing as we put this together is assuming we are doing this, although virtually means nowhere. We're doing all our times in Central Time, which is Texas time. We're treating this as if the meeting is being held in Texas to try to accommodate the look and feel of it being a Texas annual as much as it's possible to do with a virtual meeting. But a virtual meeting means we're going to have people all over the world, and we can't all go to Texas. And New York law says we can hold the meeting virtually because of the pandemic. So it overrides the Constitution. It is, there's no way we could do a live meeting this year with people traveling from all over the world. We've already decided we're going to do a virtual meeting, and we've already decided we're going to do it on Texas time to make it as much like a Texas annual as we possibly can. I think it's a little late to say, well, let's change our mind and go back to doing it in person.
Kenny Curley, you're recognized.
Yeah, I had a question for Eileen concerning Pam's question as far as recognizing how your particular vote went for one club. When you register each of our clubs or as delegates, let's say I have two clubs that I'm representing. Do you assign a certain number to that particular club, or just so that we know we're not voting more than once on an issue? Or can you use the club identification number that can be put up on the screen, which would give people assurances that their votes were going in the proper direction?
Well, no, we're not assigning numbers. Each delegate, for each club a delegate is registered, they will get a specific individualized link to the online voting. They can only vote for two clubs. If they're registered for two clubs, they can vote twice. I'll jump ahead to, we do have what I believe is a solution to the concerns about voting. First, when a delegate submits a vote, they will get a confirmation, just as a club receives a confirmation when they vote for director at large. They will get a confirmation of how they voted and how it was recorded.
Okay,
on
good.
A particular member resolution. Okay.
Thank you.
And then there are also some other reports that we do have. We plan on having a chart online that shows that a club voted, not how they voted, but that the club did vote for specific questions. We feel that how a club votes is private, and that's not something that we want to distribute publicly.
I agree. Thank you.
Okay, Pam Mosier.
Wow, well, I don't know that that's private. I mean, when you're in the delegate meeting, you're sitting there holding your hand up. Where's that private? So I myself would think that it should be public, but that's my thinking. So I still have that concern. I mean, also with the way you just showed, Eileen, how we're going to vote, you would have to toggle back and forth. And some of our people, I have to tell you, I could be one of them, that's going to have a problem. They're in the meeting and then they're going to have to toggle out into their computer and vote a different way and then try to toggle back into the meeting. I mean, this could be very problematic for a lot of our exhibitors.
And I share those concerns, Pam, and that's why we will be having we'll be having 3 practice sessions per group of regions. Again, we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves, but we plan on having practice sessions. I mean, there'll be 9 total. If somebody wants to participate in all 9, they can. There'll be Zoom. We'll have screenshots of what people can expect. We did a small test with about 5 or 6 people, and it worked amazingly well. In fact, I was surprised. We'll be testing it with the virtual annual committee within the next week or 2. So those are concerns. I agree. However,
So
go ahead.
Eileen, when let's say resolution 1 comes up, everybody's voted, we get numbers. Okay, so there's 204, 205 against. Okay. Can you generate a report that prints out all the clubs and how they voted?
Yes. There is a, Kathy Durdick has worked on this, and for the online voting, there's a delegate view where the delegate will go in, they'll enter their name and email. There's a public view, which will indicate the clubs, if they present, meaning are they present to vote? And then if they voted, and then we will have an administrative view that indicates how somebody actually voted. You know, on a particular, we'll have the results for each
Okay, well,
question.
okay, so Pam's question is, when we're at a delegate meeting, we're raising our hands. There's no anonymity. I mean, anybody sitting around can see how you vote.
Okay. If that's what you want, we can make the public view the public view. I mean,
Well,
whether
I
the
think,
chart says yes or no, it doesn't matter. Yes, no, or abstain.
okay, I think the board should vote. I don't think we should just make a decision.
right.
Somebody needs to vote that we're gonna disclose how the clubs voted publicly, because it's done in public when we're at the meeting. So Pam, do you want to, it's an unpre-noticed motion, so it would take 2/3 to pass. But if you want to make that motion, we can discuss that.
Well, I'm trying to think. I might want to pre-notice it for the next meeting. Then it'd only be
Okay.
simple majority.
Sure, that's correct.
Because I don't know. You know, I think unless somebody else wants to do it, I don't want to at this time.
Okay, that's fine. Steve McCullough, you're recognized.
This is a Shelley question. At our regular meetings, and it's close, we have a roll call vote. How does that be handled if this is all done in private?
I don't think that's a Shelley question. Oh, I'm sorry, Daryl, are you
Parliamentarian.
recognizing me?
No, yeah, that's fine. Go ahead, Shelley.
I think that's an Aline question because I need to understand what the protocol is for the whole virtual process, just to make sure it complies with roll call and everything else that we normally do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Steve, in answer to that, we would have a roll call just as we have a roll call for our board meetings. Rachel would have a list of the clubs that have been registered, and we would just go through the list, and if a roll call was necessary, then they would just vote verbally at that time.
So if I
Just
want to
as-
present an amendment, something resolution from the floor, Rachel always verifies our name with the club. How's that going to be handled?
Same way. Rachel will have a list before people, the first thing we'll ask people when they raise their hand is when when they are recognized to speak, we'll ask them to please provide their name and the club they're representing. And Rachel will check it at that time, just as she does at an annual meeting. If for whatever reason they're not registered or it's the wrong person, then we'll just indicate to them at that time that they're not eligible to speak.
Okay.
Thank you.
Kenny Curley, you're recognized.
All right.
Shelley. Sorry, okay. Melanie.
Thank you. I'd like to go back to Pam's comment and actually make a motion because I think it makes sense. We really, when we vote, we're live, we're in person. There's accountability right there. So I'd like to make a motion that we make the delegates' votes public as part of the reporting process and our virtual annual meeting for 2021.
Rachel second with comment.
Okay, all right. Melanie, have any further comment?
No.
Rich, go ahead, you're recognized.
Yeah, Pam, thank you for bringing this up. I think it's a great idea. I didn't hear anybody object to Pam's recommendation. And if Melanie wasn't going to make the motion, I was going to make the motion. So
Okay.
that's all I want to say.
Okay, Pam Delabar, you're recognized.
Just one comment. people don't know really which clubs we're carrying when we're sitting in the in-person meeting. All they know is we've got one vote or we've got two votes, and they don't know which clubs we have. So they say, oh, Pam Delabar doesn't like that one. She just voted no on that. They're not saying, oh, it was Sophisticat or German Catwalk or whatever. They don't know. It's just something else to possibly slow down the meeting. And I'm going to bring up timelines a little later when we get down to a little further in this report.
Well, Pam, I think Eileen's thing showed that you're voting, the club is listed. Isn't that correct, Eileen?
Yes.
Okay.
But Pam's right. People in a regular annual meeting, you don't really know
No,
what
I know
club
that.
somebody is representing.
Exactly. George, you're recognized.
So it is.
Yeah, and I'm going to agree. This is very, very different. It's one thing to see 200 hands flash up and down, but having a permanent written record for people to share around and nitpick and complain, why didn't you vote on my resolution? Why didn't you this? I think it's just inviting trouble. I'm not saying I'm totally opposed to it, but I really think we ought to think this through and not just plow through as an add-on in the middle of the meeting today. We can decide this next month just as well as today, but there are repercussions to reducing what is normally transitory, fleeting information to a permanent written record. And I think we need to give that some consideration before we vote.
Okay, Kathy Calhoun, you're recognized.
So, and maybe I missed this piece, but who really needs to know? Probably the club that you represent. So could this not go back to the president, like a copy to the president and a copy to the person who voted, just like it with elections and that sort of thing?
Why?
Why? Did someone say why? Because the reason why some clubs actually vote and tell their delegate how to vote. It really doesn't, I don't think that the people visually around you, you have no accountability to them, but you may have accountability to the club if the club instructed you how to vote.
And you didn't vote the way they wanted.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that could create a problem. Pam Mosier, you're recognized.
I think it's transparency, just having transparency.
I agree. Pam Delabar, you're recognized.
On what Kathy brought up, what you give when you have an instructed vote from a club that you're proxying, you give your word. That may be old fashioned, but yes, I voted as you wanted me to.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, so Melanie, would you state your motion for the record?
That we include as part of the reporting process the way that the club voting, that we include club voting in the reporting process at the 2021 virtual meeting.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to call the question. All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, the yes votes are Melanie, Kenny Curley, Pam Mosier, Steve McCullough, Brian Mosier, Rich Maston, Kathy Dunham, Hayat Hassan, John Kalila, and I don't see Howard's hand up. Did I call John Kalila? Oh,
Yeah.
Sharon Roy. All right, you can take your hands down. The no votes. Raise your hands, please. Okay, I have George Eigenhauser, Pam Delabar, Carol Krasnowski, Kathy Calhoun, and Cindy Bird. You'll take your hands down. Abstentions. Rachel Langer abstains. Okay, you can announce a vote when you have it tabulated, Rachel.
Thank you. Was Howard a yes or no?
I didn't see his hand up. Let's see, I'm trying to find him.
He's got a thumb up.
Okay,
So he was so that's 11 yes votes, 5 no votes, 1 abstention.
okay, the motion is agreed to. Oh, no. Oh, hang on. What is it again?
It's 2/3.
Okay, all right,
Yeah,
good deal. Thank
11,
you, George.
5, 1.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. Yep, 1 vote over. All right. So that motion is agreed to. So Aline, you
All
want to
right.
continue?
Sure. Let's see. We will start having delegates join at 7 a.m. 2 hours prior to the start of the annual meeting on Friday's meeting. To keep things timely, we're recommending that there be limited committee reports, presentations during the meeting. They just take up an awful lot of time, and with this unique voting that we have, it will take a little bit more time because people aren't accustomed to it. So we're recommending that there be just a few committee reports, and that all other committee reports be on the CFA website. They can be Word documents, PowerPoint, or a video. Kathy Dunham said she'll be happy to help people with a video if they so choose. So we're presenting a draft agenda for the delegate meeting, just giving an overall idea of timing, opening remarks. We're recommending there be a treasurer's report. Of course, there's a credentials report with the election results. It's been recommended that there be an in-memory slideshow, and that we have the service awards, judge, clerk, star awards. Well, you can see, and then the break, and then we get into our amendments and resolutions. So we allow quite a bit of time for amendments and resolutions.
Sure.
The voting on the amendments and resolutions. As I mentioned before, there would be individualized links for online voting. It'll be very similar to just voting for Bree Council questions or voting for a director at large or officers. Same idea. It'll be guided through. It will be structured so that a delegate can go and vote on amendment number 1. We can tally it up and then come back into the meeting, and their votes will be saved. It's not you have to do them all at one time and submit. So those votes will be saved, and we'll have the information. So that can be done as often as we want for however many voting breaks we have. We'll be able to determine much more after we see how many amendments and resolutions come in by April 15th, next Tuesday. If we have 10, but then we can determine the voting breaks. Let's see. We already looked at this. This was kind of just to give an idea of a public view, which will really now be the administrative view, since we're going to make all the voting public. This was just put together at the very last minute. But here is what the delegate would see if they have 2 clubs that they're representing. It would show both of their clubs, and then they could submit the vote. We're giving them the option if they want to just skip the question or not vote on it. That's an option.
So should the skip be abstain?
It could be an abstain or a skip. We could do abstain. And I'll make a note of that.
Steve McCullough. You're muted, Steve.
Sorry about that. The dog was barking. Will there be a time limit on voting for each club? If I have 2 clubs, do I have like 30 seconds to vote so we can get a tally done? Or is it just going to be open-ended?
There'll be some time limit. I'm not sure what that'll be yet, but there will be a time limit. Yes. We'll have to. to keep
Yep.
things moving.
Exactly.
And voting, each clubs won't be able to vote ahead, until we won't be voting on anything until the discussion is done. We'll make the voting live. We'll actually open up the question one at a time. The voting can occur again, so clubs can't skip ahead until after the discussion has occurred.
Okay.
Okay. Let me just get beyond all that. That was just samples of what Kathy had provided, Kathy Durdig. So here's the proposed meeting schedule. Again, all times are in Central Daylight Time. And you can see what the times are here. I don't have to go through those because it is a board action item to accept those times. The practice sessions that we will have for the clubs and delegates during the month of May, we're going to group the clubs by time zone as best we can. And these are the 3 groupings that we figured we'll have. And we'll do 3 practice sessions for each group at different time, at different days, and at different times to accommodate the various time zones we have. If we end up doing one at midnight our time, then we just end up doing one. I would hope that they're not all like that, but we will accommodate as best we can all the different time zones. So Kathy Dunham has taken on this project, and she will be in touch, if she hasn't already, with the regional directors and ID reps to assist with some scheduling times to make some suggestions. We'll be continuing to work on the voting method for amendments and resolutions. And of course, we're going to start promoting the virtual annual with tutorials. And that brings us to the board action items. So if anybody had any more questions?
Aline, do you want to put I mean, I guess the resolutions aren't a presentation, but they are part of the meeting, and that's not listed.
They're up here under the, I think I'm not sure. They're part of the draft agenda. Is that what you were saying?
Okay, all right.
Amendments
Okay.
and resolutions?
Yeah, well, I mean, your motion here is what's going to be presented. Right. So I didn't know if you wanted.
Oh, okay. This was the limited presentations.
Okay,
I didn't include because this is like the reports and stuff.
Okay, all right.
If we're ready for a motion, I'll move we accept action item 1.
Okay.
Rich will second.
Thank you.
Pam had her
Pam,
hand up for a
no,
question.
I'm getting ready. I'm getting ready to call on you right now.
Okay. My question was back up into groups 1, 2, and 3. How many participants do you want us to get, like from our regions, to participate in this practice session?
As many as possible.
Okie dokie.
30, 60, 90, 100. As many as want to participate.
Okay, but that's by club. So if I have 29 clubs, I would be really happy if all 29 participated, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, and it doesn't have to be just 29. If people who are in the club and they think they'd like to see how it's going to work, I mean, anybody can participate in this. It's not limited to just delegates because we don't know who they're going to be.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Sharon Roy, you're recognized.
Yes, is there going to be any way, let's say a club registers or the delegate registers on Tuesday, then on Thursday they find out they can't attend, that club can send in a proxy for their club? Is there anything been thought of with that?
I'm sure we can accommodate them. They should just contact us by phone or email. We'll have to get them the links. We'll have to get them registered. But I believe, I see no reason why we can't do that. We would do that in a live meeting.
Yep. Okay, anybody have any other questions? Okay, let's vote on motion 1. George and Rich. All those in favor? I guess I should have done unanimous consent. Looks like everybody's going to vote for it. So, but it's too late. Yes votes: Kathy Dunham, Delabar, Roy, Byrd, Eigenhauser, Brian Mosier, Kenny Curley, Krasnowski, Maston, Anger, Calhoun, Morgan, McCullough, Kalila, Pam Mosier, Hayat Desan, and Howard Webster. Take your hands down, please. All those against, raise your hand. Kathy Kaut, no, okay. No, okay. Any abstentions? Okay, Rachel, you can announce.
We had 17 yes votes, 0 no votes, 0 abstention.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Rachel. The motion is agreed to. All right, Aline, motion 2.
And then the second one is for the proposed meeting times. And you'll note that on Saturday, we are reserving time in case we have to have a part 2 of the delegate meeting.
Okay.
But regardless, and then the Bree Council Secretary meeting would be 2 to 3:30 and the ID reps following that. But even if we
Okay.
don't have a part 2, we would still stick with those times for the other meetings.
Sure. Okay, somebody want to make that motion?
Rich will make the motion.
George will second.
Pam,
Okay, Pam Delabar, you're recognized.
thank you. I'm going over some of these timeframes, especially for the meetings with the ID reps. If it starts at 4 o'clock Central Time, you're looking at midnight for Helsinki, 4 o'clock in the morning for Jakarta, and 5 o'clock in the morning for KL. So you can figure out from those times how it's going to affect China and the rest of the ID. Thursday's board meeting, why are we starting at 10 instead of at 9? And again, on Sunday's board meeting, why are we starting at 10 instead of at 9? 10 puts it at 6 p.m. Helsinki time, 10 p.m. Jakarta, 11 p.m. KL time. So it does run a good chunk of the possible delegates and participants in the middle of the night, sort of like what I do.
George?
These were all done based on the conceit that we're holding our meeting in Texas. And these were the kinds of timetables we would have put together for a meeting in Texas. I would point out if something is the middle of the night for an ID rep, if we move it to the middle of the day for them, that will make it the middle of the night for the entire board. Somebody's always going to be inconvenienced when we've got a global organization, but our tradition is to do it based on the local time of where we hold the annual.
Okay, Pam, you're recognized.
I have never seen us start a board meeting at 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning or 10 o'clock on a Thursday morning in my previous experience with this board. I think that just slipping an hour on some of these or possibly change over we usually met with the ID reps first, then the breed council secretaries. If we would just switch those around, it gives a little bit of break to the ID reps.
Make a motion.
Make an amendment.
I would like to amend several parts of this. I would like to amend that the Thursday board meetings start at Thursday and Sunday board meetings start at 9 a.m. And the Saturday meetings with
I want to do these one at a time.
Okay, I would like to amend the Thursday board meeting to start at 9 a.m.
Okay, I need a second.
Rachel seconds.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. All right. Any
Are you
further
putting-
comments, Pam?
No, I'll make the others after you vote on that one.
Okay, all right, let's call all those in favor of starting Thursday's board meeting at 9 a.m. rather than 10 a.m. Raise your hand. Okay, so the yes votes, Sharon Roy, Melanie Morgan, Cindy Bird, Brian Mosier, Carol Krasnowski, Rachel Anger, Kathy Dunham, John Kalila, Pam Delabar, Kenny Curley, Hayata-san Calhoun, Pam Mosier, Steve McCullough, and Howard Webster. You'll take your hands down. The no votes. George?
I'm an abstention.
Oh, okay. All right, abstentions. George Eigenhauser, Steve McCullough. Okay. Rachel, you can announce whenever you're ready.
Oh,
Daryl?
I'm a little confused about that vote.
He
I
voted yes.
don't have a vote for Rich.
Rich is a yes.
Thank you.
Daryl,
Yes, go ahead, Kathy.
can I unfortunately make a late comment that should the motion not have included the time zone?
Well, it's all in Central Time.
Well, but that's not, should that not have been part of the motion?
Well,
It's stated as part of the overall motion, all time central.
all times are Central Daylight, all times Central Daylight. See right up there. It's in, it's in number
I see
2.
it there. I just wanted to bring out the comment. If you think not, that's fine.
No, it doesn't need to be. Pam, you want to do Sunday since this is sort of the same thing?
Are we
Yes,
ending at
listen.
6 or 5?
When
Pardon?
we're done.
Are we ending at 6 or 5?
The motion was start at 9 o'clock.
And go to 6.
That,
Okay.
that at 9, it's 9 to 6. Pam, you want to do Sunday next since it's similar?
Do you want
Sunday,
the results for the first motion so you can
Oh,
call
yes. Thank you, Rachel.
16 yes votes, 0 no votes, 1 abstention?
Okay, thank you. The motion is agreed to. Pam,
okay, for Sunday, I move that the board meeting start at 9 a.m. Central Daylight Time.
okay, you don't have to do it. All times are Central Daylight Time. It's in
I
the-
know, I just wanted to make sure that Kathy knew.
Well, it's in the body of the motion.
I think I know by now, Pamela.
Okay, okay.
I think you made that
Okay.
quite clear.
Okay. All
Melanie
right.
seconds.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Melanie. So we have a motion and a second. So all those in favor, raise your hands. So the yes votes are Kathy Calhoun. She got her hand up first. Pam Delabar, Sharon Roy, Brian Mosier, Kathy Dunham, John Kalila, Cindy Bird, Carol Krasnowski, Melanie Morgan, Pam Mosier, Rich Maston, Rachel Anger, Hayata-san, Steve McCullough, Kenny Curley, Howard Webster. If you'll take your hands down, I'll call for the no votes. Okay, no votes, abstentions. George Eigenhauser. Okay, Rachel, you can announce the vote.
16 yes votes, 0 no votes, 1 abstention.
Okay, thank you. The motion is agreed to. All right, Pam, next.
For the Saturday, June 19th meeting with the Breed Council secretaries and the meeting with the ID reps, I would like to switch the times. with the ID reps meeting at 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. and the breed council secretaries from 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m.
George seconds.
Okay, George and Pam, okay. Rich, you're recognized.
Yeah, can we get just some information from our ID reps on this meeting to see if they like that time? Switching it, making it
Kenny?
2 hours earlier.
Yep, Kenny, you wanna,
Well, it doesn't really affect me. I'd like to hear from Gavin and Eva
okay. And Matt Wong's on,
and Matt. Yeah,
and Bob Zenda and Russell are on.
yeah. They can also comment.
Well, it doesn't affect me. I'm okay with it, but I think Gavin and Eva should ring in with Matt.
Okay,
Are they?
Just to give you,
Gavin,
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I don't have any problem with it.
Matt Wong,
Yep, I'm fine with that. Thanks very much.
okay, Matt, thank you. Bob Zenda, you have any comments? Bob said he's having some internet connectivity, so he may not. You got more comments, Pam?
I was just going to say it, starting at 2 a.m. Central Daylight Time puts it at 10 p.m. my time, 2 a.m. Jakarta time, and 3 a.m. KL time. Just
Okay.
for
All right,
otherwise it's
Any
later
other-
for.
yep. Any other comments?
Did you ask Eva?
Eva? Eva, you're muted, I think, Eva. Gavin, Eva, having comments?
Yeah,
She's
I think
muted.
she's okay. I think she's having some trouble with the audio, but she's okay with it.
Okay, all right, okay, thank you. Rich, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay, all right, Eva, thank you, hon. All right, so are you ready to vote on it? Okay, let's vote. All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, the yes votes are Pam Delabar, Melanie Morgan, Brian Mosier, Rich Maston, Sharon Roy, John Kalila, Kenny Curley, Kathy Dunham, Cindy Bird, Carol Krasnowski, George Eigenhauser, Hayata San, Rachel Anger, Kathy Calhoun, Steve McCullough, Pam Mosier, and Howard Webster. Take your hands down, please. Any no votes? Okay, I see no votes. Any abstentions? No abstentions. Okay, Rachel, you can announce a vote when you're ready.
That was 17 yes, no, 0, no votes, 0 abstentions.
Okay, so Aline, you'll make all those updates?
We have to vote on the main
will.
motion.
Oh, that's right. We got to vote on the, we've had 3 amendments, so we've got an amended main motion. Let's vote on that, okay? So all those in favor of the amended main motion, raise your hands, please. Thank you, George, for pointing that out. Yes votes, Rich Maston, Sharon Roy, Cindy Bird, George Eigenhauser, Pam Delabar, Carol Krasnowski, Rachel Anker, Kathy Dunham, Brian Mosier, Melanie Morgan, Hayata San, Kalila, Pam Mosier, Curley, McCullough, Calhoun, and Webster. You'll take your hands down, please. Any no votes? Kathy, are you a no vote?
No.
Okay. Any abstentions? Okay, Rachel, you can announce the vote.
That was 17 yes votes, 0 no votes, 0 abstentions.
Thank you very much. Okay, Aline, anything else?
Okay. Nope, that's it. Thank you.
All right, good deal. So we're next on Modernization Steering Committee. That's Leanne Rupie. You can unmute and do your report, Leanne.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Okay. First thing I wanted to talk about was the video streaming for shows, which we had planned on beta testing this past week. However, with the conflict about taking photos at the shows, not taking photos at the shows, kind of put it on the back burner a little bit. But I did want to tell you about what we're doing, just so everybody knows kind of where we're at, where we stand on this. So we purchased a couple Wise cameras and a Netgear hotspot to use in the show hall. And once we go through the beta, we'll do this for each ring. But we're going to start out by putting the camera facing the ring so that you can see what's going on in the ring without actually being in the ring. And everyone at the show would have a link to look. They can sit back in their designated area, the benching area, and watch what's going on in the rings if they want. But the other thing that we can do with these videos is put them on our club's Facebook page so the public can kind of see what goes on at a cat show, people who are following us on our Facebook page. We can do some advertisement for clubs through these videos, putting them out there from what we saved from previous years or previous events. The people who would have access to the link could be generally anyone. I mean, if you put it on the Facebook page, anyone can watch it. If you are mentoring somebody who's at the show, if you are, if somebody's agenting your cat and you want to see what's going on with the cat that they're agenting for you, you can watch it in the rings. The judging program, you could also use it as a way to, mentor new judges in the ring. So there's a lot of applications for having the streaming video, both internally and externally. But forward thinking, eventually we would like to put this, once people get used to watching it and it becomes kind of a thing to be able to watch a show remotely, is to put it behind a paywall so that people pay a couple dollars to get the link to watch the show online. And then anyone could watch the show from anywhere, the other side of the world. You want to watch, if you're in China and you want to watch the show in Houston, you can watch the show in Houston from China by paying $2. And that is a extra revenue for the club that's hosting that show. Until people are comfortable with us going back to seeing what's going on in the show hall, taking pictures, taking video, whatever, I don't know when we actually want to try and beta this. So I'm going to leave it until I hear from Daryl, and we'll kind of move forward as the board wants to do that, because we are putting it out there for the public to see what we're doing if we put it on the Facebook page. So it's kind of up to you guys when that's going to be.
Okay. Anything else, Leanne?
On that one, I think that's about it for the video.
Okay.
Okay, so the next thing is the virtual library. In the 15 years that I've been in CFA, I have looked for information in so many various places that I've gotten frustrated not being able to find it. You ask people, you call central office, you waste a lot of your time and other people's time trying to find information because it's on the CFA website somewhere, or it's on ECAT, or it's on securecfa.org, or you go to Herman, or you go inside CFA. There's all these various places that people are trying to manage our information. And content's being moved as websites are being rebuilt, and always something being redirected. I could tell you 3 or 4 links right now that are broken trying to get the data. So what I had envisioned a long time ago, and I would really like to bring into fruition, is having a CFA virtual library. It doesn't mean we change where things are in their various locations, but we would have access to many things through the virtual library. So I have a whiteboard behind me. I don't know if you guys can see it at all with the glare, but it kind of gives an idea of how things would be. So like the structure of the volume 1 of the virtual library would have the CFA Constitution, amendments and bylaws in it. So a new person coming to CFA could go to the volume 1 of the CFA virtual library and say, I want to read about CFA. I want to know about this organization. I'm going to learn about the Constitution, the amendments, the bylaws, what the organizational structure is, who the officers are, and what is the org chart, what are the roles and responsibilities of those different officers with the about the CFA delegates, the Congress of CFA, so to speak, the ones who make the rules, and what our legislative process is, how our annual meeting normally works, the clubs, what are the roles and responsibilities of the clubs, the application process to become a club, the forms that you need, having links to those, different committees, their purpose, their structure, how they report, the protest process, when and why you would use a protest, and how the form, or where you find the form for that, and going through different volumes. I mean, I've got like 4 or 5 volumes put together right now, and it's just a beginning of the infrastructure. So volume 2, the CATs, or recognized breed, or breed standards, breed councils, what's the purpose of a breed council, requirements and application forms for the breed councils, how do you apply for breed recognition, what are the requirements, what's the process, what forms do you use to do that? If you are on an outcrossing program, the process for that, the forms, what do you have to do if you want to utilize existing breeds? Or what about native breeds, like the Japanese bobtail or the Siberian or Manx or whatever, utilizing the domestic short-haired outcross programs. How are those processes different? You know, what are the forms we need? What's the process we need to do that? Evolution of breed identification with DNA. This is going to be something that's going to come to the forefront soon. So we're going to have to start talking about feline color trait maps, a genetic model that we're putting together. This is just kind of 2 volumes of what we've started. And Nancy Abbott is helping me with this. I'm sure it will evolve a lot as we go through this process. But the idea is that it would be, you know, you'd log on to CFA with your login, you get access to the virtual library. You could click on the virtual library and you could go to whatever topic you wanted. If it's in, most of it's in PDF format, it would be easy to search. Unlike our website, we have issues with that right now. We would have content managers. We would have to have a system of revision control, checking in and checking out, and ownership of different parts of the data. We are going to need people to write some of this, a lot of this. There's a lot of writing that's going to be done. We'll be able to cut and paste things from different places, put them in PDFs, but this should be something that a new person coming to CFA should be able to understand. And if they wanted to read our library from beginning to end, they would know how CFA works. They would know how our breed process works. They would know how to be, what our breed, you know, our breeds and, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. As I went through the different volumes, I had several different things up here, but you could literally read the entire library and use it as a reference rather than trying to search for things on all these different places where we have things in CFA.
Sounds like a great educational tool, but a lot of work to put it together.
A lot of work to put it together. So Nancy Abbott and I are working on the structure, which once the structure is complete, we would like to have people look at it and say, okay, this makes sense, this doesn't make sense, that's not really the way things flow, these things really are together, or maybe these are completely separate, you have them in the same place, but they're really not related, so let's separate them. Content wise, the subject matter experts in those areas are going to have to write the content. And this is
Okay.
going to happen overnight. We realize this.
Okay,
But-
Rich Leanne, Rich has his hand up. He's got a question for you.
Yes, Rich.
Thank you, Daryl. Actually, my question is for Shelley, and it is specific to the live show videos. Does the hosting club need to post public notification that video is in process for these types of events? Because I'm not exactly sure we all know what the end purpose is for all the videos.
One thing, the initial plan doesn't have us storing any videos, but eventually that would have to be a consideration. So Shelley.
Shelley?
Thank you. So Rich, are you asking me what the legality is of video recording participants and or using that material with or without their consent in each jurisdiction? Is that the question that that you want me to address?
Well, it could be, depending on what the purpose is for the videos, but in what's being presented, it doesn't sound like the videos are being used for security purposes. They're being used for other. And is it necessary to notify the public with just a simple posting that video is in process so they're aware? I know if it's for security purposes, you don't have to notify the public that there is security surveillance. But I don't know for these all intended purposes that CFA and the club wish to do with the videos, what the requirement is.
So I think that each state has their own laws about video recording, and I would be a little concerned about making a blanket statement that if it's for security purposes, you just get to use it or capture it, although that's probably accurate. And so I think that the best thing to do is just have some kind of purposeful notice that is obvious, that's acceptable, much like any other waiver. If you're having participants and or spectators sign any kind of waivers related to COVID, it could also add a tagline that satisfies any of these video release to use materials. I mean, I just know that that's something that we should address when it becomes a real thing that we're going to video stream or capture videos, or that they could be posted on our website or used for promotional purposes or anything like that. You see that on pretty much most businesses that are capturing video. They say that the event is being videoed and the video may be used for promotional purposes or whatever the purpose is. So I'd like to see some kind of release or notice.
Thank you for the information, Billy.
I was going to ask you about that, Shelley, because I have a Meowie Hour coming up next weekend, and I don't know if the people in the building have to sign a release or not that don't know they're being recorded.
I'm not sure that a release is necessary. And so that would be specific to your state. And most states have a specific law on who can capture video and what the exceptions are to that, and what the purposes of that are. But I should think that to err on the side of caution, we appear in so many different jurisdictions. I think to err on the side of caution, if you are going to video people and post it on any kind of internet and or promotional purpose or website or stream it, that people should have notice and or a signed waiver, and maybe just a notice is good enough. And each state may have a different requirement.
Okay, so I've got homework.
Yeah, you do.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, Leanne, you want to finish up your report here?
It's going to apply to each club, knowing what their local requirements are and making sure they abide by the local requirements if they're going to do the video capture.
Yeah.
So on the virtual library, one thing that we will need is a location to store content. And so, Mr. Sembro, I hope to work with you soon to see if we can figure out a place where we can store content as we start working on this, and also talk about some content management software for revision control. And that's about it.
So I got, Leanne, I got a messenger here. It says the virtual library is really a sitemap for the website, and we should have that already. You
Well,
want to address
no,
that?
it's not, because the way a lot of things are presented on the site is not useful to people who are coming into CFA. There's a ton of stuff that's missing, but there's also stuff that even though they may find it, it doesn't have meaning to them. And
Okay.
this all the time from newbies. I work with a lot of newbie people. I mentor a lot of people, and I refer them to the website. I give them direct locations of where things go, and they still don't understand exactly what it is, what our annual meeting is. They don't understand how the clubs and the annual meeting all works together. So the virtual library would be explaining how all this works, not just that it exists and what the Constitution says, but how it all works, how the organizational structure works together, how the decision-making process actually occurs, rather than just saying it exists.
So are you thinking about you'd have like a table of contents and a hyperlink to take you to inside the library?
Exactly. So if there is a form that's already on the website, let's say for a club application, we're not going to embed that form. We're going to link to the form that's already on the website.
Sure. Okay. All right.
But for the explanation of how you would fill out the form, or what would need to be done before you fill out the form for a show license, you need to make sure that you have already contacted judges, you have already found a location, that you've already talked to your regional director,
Okay.
show scheduler is.
Okay.
There's a lot that goes on that isn't part of what we currently have in our content.
Okay. All right.
So
I think we got a good idea of what you're trying to accomplish here. So
I did put a questionnaire on the newbie site asking newbies what they've been looking for that they haven't been able to find. And I've been asking that question for a while to kind of help draw out some things that we need.
okay.
So it's going to be a time-consuming process. It's going to take a while,
Okay.
but I think it will be a good thing to have as we go down the road and draw more younger people, newer to the CFA, and
Yep.
understand
Okay.
how things work.
Okay.
Okay, the last thing on the agenda, this is a big one. This is what we talked about last time, is, we said the words EMS because Pam and I had been talking about the EMS codes, and I don't think people understood, because we had conversations outside of this forum, why we were even talking about this. So this is how I'm going to explain what we're doing. We know CFA is the world's largest feline registry, but how are we going to stay that way? We've got a lot of competition around the world right now. And the only way we're going to stay that way is if we stay ahead. We're either going to lead or we're going to follow. Right now, we're getting very close to following in a lot of areas. So what I'm proposing is that we start working on establishing standards for best practices for interoperability. That means being able to talk to other feline registries electronically. How much longer do you think these other registries are going to continue to use paper, especially in China? These guys are high tech, they're savvy, they're not going to do this stuff on paper. We need to be able to set a standard of how we're going to communicate from registry to registry and share pedigrees, valid pedigrees that are certified by the registries, and import them into our database in an electronic format. So the first step in figuring out how to do that is coming up with a common language. In the medical industry, it was HL7. They came up with a medical language called HL7. That's what all the electronic medical record systems became built on, and that's how everything communicates with each other. The EMS, I believe EMS is the language that's going to allow us to communicate with all the other registries. It is now in its infancy and it needs to grow. We need to work with what is already there, work with the people who are on our genetics committee who are expanding it, figuring out what codes we need to cover basically everything, and then eventually put this on our IT plan to figure out how we're going to develop this interoperability to transfer pedigrees electronically from registry to registry.
Okay. Pam, you got your hand up. You want to make a comment?
Yes, in June of 2018, we had a basic conversation with the Breed Council secretaries about EMS, and most were, I mean, not violently against it. I think that this would be a good place to start again with another short presentation on EMS and bring it back up with the Breed Council secretaries when we have the meeting in June.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And I mean, we can discuss it here, but I mean, if the breed councils aren't going to go along with it, this is not going to go anywhere.
Like, I think my point is, I mean, that is kind of what came up before. Some people didn't want it, didn't like it, didn't want it on their pedigrees, didn't want it on their registrations. But this isn't about being on the CFA registration. It's not about changing the CFA registration number. Even if you never saw that EMS number, the EMS code or number is what would allow us to communicate between registries. It is, the breed councils may have to buy into what their EMS code is and validate what their EMS code is. But if they're done correctly, it should be pretty well self-evident. It's telling you, you have a long hair, short hair, what breed, what color, what eye color, what generation. It isn't something that's going to give people, it's going to make people change anything they're doing. If they want to learn EMS codes and want to learn better how to identify a breed just by looking at it, they can learn the EMS codes. If they don't want to learn them, they don't have to learn them. But
okay.
We have a foundation for communicating with the other registries. And I believe that that is the foundation that we're going to move towards. If it's not, you know, somebody needs to propose something else, but looking down the road of how we're going to get there and how we're going to communicate electronically, we have to come up with something or we're going to get left behind.
Okay. Okay. Anything else on EMS?
That wraps it up for me.
Okay, good deal. Thank you, Leanne. We really appreciate it. We know you guys are doing some introducing some stuff that, you know, is a little bit different than what we've normally done. So I appreciate that. So, okay, we are to unfinished business. Any unfinished business that we have? Okay, any other committee reports that we didn't get reported on? Okay, so new business. Rachel, let's do your item for approval for a club in China. Let's get that one done first.
Okay, for the China Central Cat Fanciers Club 2 long hair, 3 short hair show, April 11th, 2021 in blah, 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 blah. I'll put this all in the minutes. Hangzhou City, China. A, grant an exception to show rule 6.35 subparagraph C to allow the club to extend its closing date by 2 days to 9 p.m. China time on Thursday, April 8th, 2021. And B, grant an exception. Sorry, I have to go here. to the evaluation section of the Associate Judge Program adopted June 3rd, 2020, which states at least one CFA judge must be at each show at which any associate judge officiates to serve as a lead judge to answer questions and provide assistance if needed. Now, I'm not sure if we have just changed that rule or not, but I included it just to be sure. And this also assumes that we will have a judge on standby if required.
Kenny seconds.
Thank you, Rachel and Kenny. Any discussion on that? Is there any objection to the motion? Hearing no objections by unanimous consent, it is ratified. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Okay, and now we got we moved the survey results to new business. Helene, you want to
Yep.
slide back up to that and see, Melanie, that's your deal.
Okay, great. Thank you. Kathy and I were asked to put together the questions for this National Breed Win Survey, and we did that. We now have the results, which were provided by central office. And what I'll do now is just briefly summarize, and then we can go from there. The results, individuals summary, there were 371 respondents, largest response in Region 4 that had 90 individuals that respond. Almost all the respondents were CFA club members, and the majority had been involved in CFA. You can just keep going down as I go through this, Eileen. In CFA for over 10 years. Most respondents attended 7 to 25 shows per year, with 35% attending 16 to 25, 31% attending 7 to 15. 52% were not in favor of national wins for this upcoming season. 48% were in favor. Breed wins were slightly different, with 55% in favor and 45% not. And then we looked at it not just from the individual exhibitors, but from clubs. The summary there, 251 different clubs responded. There was much better representation from the ID and from Japan in terms of the percentages there, which I thought was kind of cool. Clubs were split fairly evenly on show production since 2018, but 45% were not planning a show in the upcoming season. 29% were not sure yet. Slightly better numbers for attendance. 56% would attend, 29% weren't sure. And then on the big question, the national win title question, it was once again really close. 55% were in favor of national wins, 45 not. Breed wins were slightly more decisive, with 64% in favor of awarding breed win titles. So that's kind of the results in a really quick nutshell. But as far as I can see, just taking a look at and summarizing all of that, it seems clear that both our exhibitors and by extension our clubs are understandably torn on the subject. There is no mandate from anyone here, as far as I can tell as well. I'm not advocating either way, but I want to say that we may want to consider some adjustments. I think we all got an email from an exhibitor, and I also have spoken to some other exhibitors with similar ideas. Looking at those adjustments for this season only, if we do decide to move forward with awards in the national and breed win categories this year. So some of those adjustments might be in the minimum point requirements, but we should also think about other equalizing measures, such as changing the number of rings counted for the season only to something like the 50 and 20 that were submitted to us, or perhaps 75 and 30. What that will do is that'll reduce the handicap borne by areas where shows are going to be limited throughout the season. So at any rate, in many ways, we're between the proverbial rock and a hard place. In reality, it's too early to tell whether things will be able to resume in the fall, but our exhibitors need an answer prior to May 1st. So the buck stops here, I guess. So one way or another, we need to make a decision, probably tonight, even though it's getting rather long in the tooth here. So there you have it, the results from the survey, and I look forward to hearing input from all of you, especially our regional directors who have intimate knowledge of the challenges that each one of their different areas may have, may be facing as we go forward in this.
Well, first off, Melanie, thank you, and Kathy. You guys did a fantastic job here. This is just full of useful information. Pam Delabar, you're recognized.
Thank you. I would like to make a motion. Before I make the motion, I just want to make a comment. In reading through these comments, I guess I was saddened to see how many people are in the cat fancy for recognition and awards, not particularly for the breeds and the working towards the survivability of our breeds that we each and dearly love. But being as that may be, I would like to make a motion that for the 2021, 2022 show season, that we award the breed awards for that show season.
Okay, I need a second.
Rachel seconds.
Okay, Rachel. All right, George, you're recognized.
I have a question. Since there were no action items pre-noticed for this, is this all going to be subject to 2/3?
Yes. Correct. Rachel?
Thank you. You are referring to national breed wins. Is that correct, Pam?
Oh, yes, that's correct.
You know,
and by extension, regional as well.
Okay.
And division, yeah.
And I really support this because of the exact point Pam made. We have grown a generation of exhibitors. We've not honored the breeders. And to me, the breed award is always the cream of the crop. And I'm not supporting it to exclude national awards, but for this year, I like the concept of the breed win being our premier award.
Okay. Pam, your hand's up.
Sorry.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, is there any objection to Pam's motion to award national breed wins? Kenny Curley, you're recognized.
No, I have no objection to the breed wins. I'd like to, I guess we could have a separate motion on national wins.
Yep.
Or I could
Let's do this one, and then if you want to make national wins, that can be our next motion, Kenny.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other comments about national wins? National breed wins? Okay. Is there any objection to awarding national breed wins in the next show season? Okay, hearing no objection by unanimous consent, we will have national breed wins next year. Okay, Kenny?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to institute national wins for the 21-22 show season.
Okay, I need a second.
Carol will second.
Thank you, Carol. Okay, George, you're recognized.
I think we're just a little too soon. We still have the May meeting where we could adopt national wins before we get into the thick of the new show season. There's still a lot of changes. They're happening very quickly. As Melanie pointed out, there are some alternatives too, tweaking it. So instead of 100 rings, you have 75 rings to kind of take away the advantage some regions will have when they've opened up sooner than others. I think we should give those an opportunity to be developed and expressed and explored before we decide just point blank, we're going to have national wins next year. I think we can make this decision just as easily next month, but we'll have a lot more information and we may have some alternative proposals by then.
Do we know our competitors? Are they awarding national wins?
Yes, they are.
Both TICA and ACFA?
TICA, I know.
Okay. Pam Delabar?
We have more competitors than just TICA and ACFA. And it depends upon the area, the federations, or whatever. As things stand right now, I cannot see any of our exhibitors from Region 9 being able to compete for a national award. Breed awards possibly, but not a national award.
Okay, Kenny Curley, your hand's still up. Carol Krasnowski,
Yes, I support the national ones, and I think we could vote on this motion tonight. And then we still have time to establish minimums or changes in the number of rings required, et cetera, before the show season gets too far underway. So I think we can vote on this motion tonight and get that out of the way.
okay, Melanie, you're recognized.
I have to agree that I feel that this is a little premature. We still have huge areas around the world that aren't open, that can't spread, that aren't going to be able to participate. And I would really like to look at some of these alternatives to try to equalize things so that the national win title is available and not in any sort of sense of the word devalued. So at this point, I just think it's premature.
Okay, anyone else? Melanie, your hand's still up. Okay, I'll call the question. No one has their hands up. All those in favor of returning to national wins, raise your hand if you're for this. And remember, everybody, it takes 2/3. Okay, the yes votes are Steve McCullough, Kathy Dunham, Kenny Curley, Carol Krasnowski, Hayat San, Pam Mosier, and Cindy Bird. You'll take your hands down. If you're voting no, I have Melanie Morgan, Brian Mosier, George Eigenhauser, Sharon Roy, Pam Delavar, Kathy Calhoun, John Kalila, Rich Maston. You'll take your hands down. Any abstentions? Oh, Howard, were you a yes or a no? Abstentions, Rachel Anger. And I don't know how Howard voted.
Well, we need to know.
Howard, if you can hear us, why don't you go into the chat and send us a yes or no vote on the chat?
Or you can just put, Howard, if you're a yes, put your thumb up. Howard, if you're a no, put your thumb up.
Oh, he's doing a crying face now. I'm not quite sure what that means.
Howard, you're not muted. Can you speak?
Howard's a no.
No, okay.
He sent it by chat.
Okay. All right, and I call for the abstentions, and that was Rachel. So Rachel, you can announce the vote.
So we have 7 yes votes, 9 no votes, 1 abstention.
Okay, so the motion fails. All right. Melanie, anything else from your report?
That was it. Thank you.
Okay, I think did we cover everything on open session? Rachel, did we miss anything?
Let me just check my notes real quickly.
Okay,
Budget Foundation ID 18. That looks like everything I have a note about.
okay, all right. Okay, so let's see, what time is it here? So it's 10:53.